everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud for Judgment Day on Gaming Enforcement Agency. That's right. You've tuned in December 15th. It's our Game of the Year, Best Soundtrack of the Year, Best Looking Game of the Year, and Best Indie Title of the Year. That's all to come. And my man, I'm joined by Unky Dunky. Sir, welcome back. It's been a while.
I'm back.
I'm back, baby. How you feeling, mate?
Right? Yeah, no, doing all right. COVID's kicked my ass this week, so we'll get through tonight, though. It's not too bad. It's given me a lot of chance to play some video games, so let's talk about it.
I love it, mate. Using it, silver lining and all that, and also joining us there in the bottom frame. Hello, Bully. How you doing, sir?
Good, lads. Good to have Unky back. I was a little wary last week that his replacement might have been a little too good.
Oh, shout out to Ace.
So shout out to Ace. Hopefully you're watching tonight. Now, just before we kick off, and I know this is a big show because we've got the Game of the Year, but I just thought, I know there's been some requests in the chat for some vocals to occur, so I thought I might just jump in and throw you some vocals at the start of the show. And
I love it. What are we in for?
I'll kick it off with this. If there is something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call? Not Uncle the PS5. You send a party invite. He ghosts you off to play the Xbox. Who are you going to call? Not Donkey. Infringement notice, Donkey. We caught you out the other night. We were playing on COD. Little did you know that I was playing on the PS5. Troy was playing it on the Xbox. We sent you the party invite on the PS5. And then you quickly jumped off of that and decided, no, I'm going to play some Xbox where they can't see me. But Troy saw you pop up as well over there. So
that is not what happened at all.
Given the fact that you sent us the ghost, I'm going to send you the Ghostbuster infringement notice. 4 points for you, my friend, for absolutely wiping us the other night while we were sitting there trying to have a game.
And Jesus, did Bully bloody turn it on. 43 kills in one round. I've never witnessed such a slaughtering by an individual. It was beautiful.
Welcome. It's because I wasn't there, so you're welcome, Bully.
I would have torched you as well had you jumped in there. No doubt.
Nice work, fellas. Unky, great to have you back. And Bully, shout out to you, my friend, for your first Let's Play on the channel last night for some Witcher 3 action, mate. Tip of the cap. Great first at-bat. It was a thing of beauty. Good work, mate.
Thank you very much. Little bit nervous to start with, but hopefully we'll work into it with some coming or some more upcoming ones. So stay tuned for that.
Hear that, everyone in the community? Send him some love when he's on there. He loves it.
Now, Bully, have you ever thought that might have been because you guys bagged me out so hard during your Elden Ring coverage last week and that you didn't get the platinum and all that jazz? Maybe that's the reason I didn't want to play with you anymore.
Well, we're playing multiplayer games. You don't have to worry about getting platinums in the multiplayer game. I don't know what you want me to say, but
that's right. Even Ace had a dig. That's why he's not here this week. See you later, Ace.
Ace in the hole, some might say. For all the viewers out there, I'm going to let you know the run of show. First off tonight, we'll be doing games, Interrogation, and Deliberation. That's the top 4 games we're playing this week. We've shortened the list to accommodate what's coming up after it. Well, not directly after it. After, of course, is the news segment. That's going to be brief as well because the standoff tonight, my goodness, what a treat. Unky Dunky, give us the constraints of the standoff, mate.
Mate, the standoff this week's a big one because it's our Game of the Year discussion. So this week we're looking at the best indie game, we're looking at the best game soundtrack, the best looking game, and the big one, the Game of the Year 2022 as voted by us, G.E.A. Whether we get a consensus, we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, look out. There might be some backhanders flying. We might have to call in Ace for a couple of hits. And then, of course, segment 4, we are over to you in the audience. That's right. We've had a poll running all week in the YouTube community chat, which is still open. Jump on. Your votes still count. And also, Bully, while we're streaming here this evening, he'll also be throwing up some more polls so you can continue to vote throughout the evening. And unlike the Game Awards, every vote counts. Continue to vote. We'll add them all up. And because I'm a real champion, I've got graphics for every possible contingent of winner. So it doesn't matter who you pick. We've got the graphic. We've got you covered. It's going to be a thing of beauty. But without further ado, we are going on to games, interrogation, and deliberation. All right, first up this week, it is High on Life. And as the COVID had him on the couch, he has put in a lot of hours into this one. So over to you, Unky, for the lead investigation.
I have. I've actually almost finished the game now, Troy. It's been a very good time, and if this game had come earlier, this might even be on my list of one of the games of the year because I've had so much fun playing this game. And obviously, it's by Squanch Games, Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame, and they've given us a couple of VR games and stuff in the past. But this is easily by far their best sort of standing as a game. I think it looks incredible. I'm
as you can see on screen right now, it looks fantastic.
It's probably not the best. As you can see, the start of the game starts off with this, sort of slightly different aesthetic to what the game actually does bring you. But it's an absolutely hilarious opening to the game. I reckon I was, laughing out loud from the moment I started playing this game in relation to the way it's trying to teach you its mechanics and what's going on in the game. And it's just very funny. It's very Justin Roiland. Like straight up, if you're into Rick and Morty, if you like that humor, you're going to like this game. That's the only thing about this game is if you don't like that humor, you're probably going to find a lot of it, not very funny, and it can grate on you pretty quickly, considering most of the guns or all the guns that are talking to you are pretty much voiced by Justin Roiland himself. So, and they've got that very same sort of humor as your Rick and Morty. I'm not even the biggest Rick and Morty fan, but I really do enjoy this game and what it's doing. It did get a recent 9 gig patch, I think, after day one, which smoothed out a lot of the frame rate issues I was having in that first initial sort of day of playing it. So now it is running at your 60.
If you look on screen now, this footage now, this is the real game, not the intro game. The real game, and I can confirm this had the most recent patch. So this is running silky smooth. It looked amazing. Over to you, Unky.
No, it is, and it does run really nicely. And I don't know what it is. I just love this aesthetic in games. Like I was a massive fan of like Sunset Overdrive. I've really been enjoying Hello Neighbor, which is not on this list. That also hit Game Pass this week. But I just really like the cartoony style, and when it's done to this polish and just the way the world looks and the way the guns look and just the way they react with you, I just really enjoy it. So you got this gun Kenny on screen right now. He's sort of your main sort of gun character throughout the whole thing and what drives the story. And he's hilarious the whole way through. And you unlock these sort of other guns as you go that sort of meet your tropes of guns. You've got your shotgun, you've got your sort of more sniper rifle one, but she's also kind of like a needler from Halo. You later on like grenade launcher type thing as well. They've all got secondary fire functions as well. Like Kenny can fire a grenade launcher himself, which you utilize that to actually solve puzzles and stuff within the world. So it's not just sort of getting around and shooting. The shooting as well, very serviceable, quite fun. It makes a nice little ding noise when you get headshots and stuff like that, which I really enjoy. But just the way they play with the humor of the game and the way they sort of bring in sort of nods to other games and all that. I think they're very sort of, it's on the nose a lot of the times. You can see exactly where they're going. Like I've had references specifically to like Mario in the game. I've had one where he's actually mentioned when there's
sorry, quickly explain what we're seeing on screen now because it was brilliant.
So you come down a tunnel and you meet this little kid and he just starts mouthing off at you and essentially he just baits you into killing him. So effectively you do kill him and then you pop the trophy and the trophy is something similar to, or if not the same as Fallout won't let you do it, or Fallout doesn't let you do this, and it's about killing kids in games. But it's just so funny the way it's done. And then you walk through the door, you find his mum there and she's upset. She's not even that upset because she's like, oh, you've killed him. She goes, he's actually like 30 years old, so you've actually just committed regular murder. Which it's just sort of stuff like that I find quite funny. And then there's like nods to other games where like today there was a portal thing that opened up in the ground. It was a big circle and he's like, what is this? Like an indie game like that Donut County? So they fully reference other games that are out there. Like they actually reference Mario and they don't sort of beat around the bush and say something like Mario. They literally reference Mario Brothers as a platforming section in the game, which I thought of Troy straight away, whether he can actually do it or not. But
probably not.
No, and there's like a joke at the start about hitting down on the D-pad for crouching because he asks you to double jump, but there's no double jump. Yeah. And then he sort of creates what kind of game has a crouch but not a double jump, and it sort of comes back later in the game because eventually you unlock a jetpack, which is what your A button does if you hit double A. So there's a lot of stuff there that they do think about and they do come back to. It's not just sort of left alone in the past. But just to speak about some of the stuff in the game, like you've ever got full FMV inside your house of movies. There's one called Tammy and the T-Rex, which I found myself watching. I think I watched 25 minutes of this movie with Paul Walker and Denise Richards. I didn't know that. I don't know if there is one, but I
There
watched it
is.
for 20 minutes.
There's an achievement. I don't know. It's for a TV show. I don't know which one, but there's like watch the full episode of blah TV show is one achievement in the game.
Oh, maybe it's Tammy and the T-Rex, which I was all in for with a Paul Walker, like an 18-year-old Paul Walker and Denise Richards, and a whole bunch of drama stuff going on with an ex-boyfriend and stuff.
Did you happen to see? I only saw it in the town square, and I don't know if they repeat the TV shows in other locations, but in the town square, you can go and watch a monitor, and it's 3 blokes on a live stream complaining about how they started live streaming what their passion was and turned it into a job and how boring their lives were now. I thought it was incredibly funny.
No, I haven't, but that's this game in a nutshell. It's got so many moments like this where if you just stop and listen, there is that much dialogue.
Yeah.
And each gun has its own dialogue for each situation. So you can be playing through a whole section as just one gun and you will not sort of get a grasp on what all the other ones would say. So I found myself playing a lot with Kenny, but like the shotgun Gus, he's quite funny as well. One of the ones I've just unlocked, I won't spoil it, but he can only just say his name. It's quite funny. I won't.
What about the bloody knife, mate? Come on, shout out to the knife.
The bloody knife, mate. You pick him up, and he's the most unhinged weapon or melee weapon I reckon I've ever used in a video game ever. And he's just
wait a minute. He's also, in my opinion, the most relatable character in any video game ever. Please continue.
Because he's made for killing, and all he wants to do is kill. So he's pretty good. He also doubles as a movement mechanic as well with his tongue. You can get around the worlds and use him as like a slingshot thing, which is quite cool. But it's just a mechanic for everything. And I just think it's so well polished for a game that's made by a relatively small studio. A lot of the characters obviously voiced by one guy, and you can obviously recognize a lot of other comedic actors throughout the game as well as you're playing. Like I unlocked a cinema, and I had a 3 group of people like watching a movie within that, another real movie, and they're all commenting on it. I can't remember the name of the actors, but you just know their voices from somewhere. Yeah. So he's obviously pulled from his experience in the industry for quite a while and sort of managed to get some of these voices for his game. But I mean, I would be happy to get a sequel to this game, even bigger and better, because I've had so much fun with this game. I really enjoy the shooting mechanics, just the exploration it's got, the humor, everything about it's got hidden chests to find for cash. You get upgrades for all your weapons. You can upgrade, your ammo. You can upgrade your jetpack. You can upgrade your dodge ability to be able to slide and just keep doing this massive slide that goes for like 100 meters. There's so much to this game that I think is just so well done, and it's confined. It doesn't seem to draw itself out too long. You're just going after these bounties within these levels. All these sort of bosses that you're going after all have such great personalities, and the way you kill them is always so unique and fun to do. And it's always giving you a new mechanic.
Check out on screen right now. This is the acquisition of the knife, and then watch what happens next. This is just a thing of beauty. It instantly asks you to kill the blokes that are selling you. They were trying to sell you the knife, but no, it's game over for those blokes. Sorry, Unky, back to you.
That's all right. Have you gone back with the knife and spoken to Gene yet, the bounty hunter?
I sure have, and I unlocked the achievement for
stabbing him.
Yeah.
See, it just does some funny stuff. And the way it deals out achievements in this game is hilarious. Like, this isn't too much of a spoiler because when it happens, it's still funny. I was fighting a boss today, and he didn't sort of really like what I was doing, so he's like trying to distract me. He goes, "Here, take this." He goes, "Take this achievement for sitting and watching a strip club for 15 hours or something like that. 15 real life hours." And literally, this achievement pops saying, "Watch in-game strip club for 15 hours."
That's hilarious because I read the achievement list, and I assumed at some point I was going to come across a strip club, and I was waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, no, he just literally throws at you to embarrass you, so it's on your achievement list. It's just stuff like that. I just think it's absolutely genius. And there's like a boss fight which starts out where you're thinking you're going to fight this boss, and then he sort of you never actually have to fight the boss per se because he just falls over. You get an achievement for defeating the boss, and oh my god, it does all these funny things with achievements, and it's just one of those games that I've had so much fun with. And as I said, if it came out earlier in this year, this would be it doesn't even need to come out earlier this year. It's probably still in my top 10 for how much fun I've had with it.
For me, I've put, I would say, maybe 3 to 4 hours into it at this point, and I haven't come across, one bug at all. How's your experience? Sorry, did you say you'd finish it, or you're towards the end, mate?
No, I'm literally in the up to the last boss now. So
how many hours? What's the hour count to get there?
That's a good question. It's probably, I reckon, maybe 8 to 10.
Yeah, okay. So shortish game, but in that 8 to 10 hours, man, have you seen any bugs?
No, I've had no bugs whatsoever. I think the worst I had was before the patch, and I just had a couple of minor slowdowns, hiccups here and there, and the frame rate sort of teetering between that 45 and 60, depending what was happening on screen. But since that patch, just smooth 60 the whole way through. So
There's
no,
so much polish
no
on this game.
crashes, no bugs, no like progression issues. Like I've had nothing. So, and I actually
I don't know what you're talking about. There's plenty of bugs in it, and that murderous psychotic knife wants to stick himself into every one of them.
It is true. It is fun to pop those heads of those ants and those bugs, and just the way the enemies are covered in this goop that you've got to get off them before you can shoot them. I just think that's a masterful design thing. Like you might see a fair few of them by the end of your playthrough, but no, I've just loved every second of playing this game. Like every time it's been on, I have not felt bored once.
I second everything you've said, man. I got nothing but praise for this game. Absolutely loved it. As I said, 3 to 4 hours in. But how about you, Believe? You gone hands on? Any thoughts, mate?
Oh, I'm probably about the same as you, Troy. About 3 or 4 hours in. Same thing. I'm absolutely loving it. It's off the wall sort of humor. It's stuff that you don't really see in video games, really, in terms of the style of humor. And as Anki touched on before, like that was probably one of the funniest moments, fairly close to the start of the game, where you kill that young kid.
Yeah, optional. We should say it's optional.
Well, it's optional.
30-year-old kid.
But well, it's optional. But if you want the achievement, you got to pop him. So,
True.
There's little things like that, and then even that first, we can see on the screen now that's basically your first sort of boss fight in that first sort of open level bit that you get to. And even little things like I know you put up a video the other day of it, Troy, where after you've beat this boss, there's a captive that gets dropped down.
It's coming up, mate. If you buy yourself about 30 seconds, will be there. But keep going.
Well, I'll try and buy myself a little time between them. But the humour of it, as Anki said, there's exploration. There's it's funny. Sometimes the inane chatter from the gun can get a little bit annoying, but there is actually a slider in the options menu.
And did you use that slider, mate? And what was
No, I haven't yet, but I can see myself before the end of the game probably using it.
I tell you, I wish that slider had a notch in the other direction. I'd take more banter if they'd give it to me.
Wait till you get some of the other guns, because some of the other guns, like they take. If you're just getting sick of if you're getting sick of Kenny, then you get some of the other one. I love Kenny as well. I've used him most of the time, but some of the other guns you get say some really funny stuff, so it's worth keeping that slider up.
Oh, and sorry, we should have said this probably at the top, or maybe it did, Unky, and I missed it. But this game is currently in Xbox Game Pass. It launched day one into Xbox Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can check it out yourself at no additional cost. And off the top of my head, I think it was about 27 gig install. So it's a relatively small package size. It's smaller than the upcoming discussion on Forspoken demo. That demo was 30 gigs, 32 gigs. This entire game is smaller than the Forsaken demo, but fantastic game. I've absolutely loved the humor in it. Sorry, Billy, back to you.
No, that's all good. I'm the same. Just really enjoying the humor. But if it, as I said, there is that option in the menu that you can, if the weapons start getting a bit on your nerves, you can slide that down. So it basically will just give you, or they will just talk when it relates to missions, and to help you through the missions, or give you a story for those missions, and that's basically it. Otherwise, the sort of default generic part is, there's a bit of banter as they're going, and as much as occasionally when you're sort of exploring, it can get, as I said, it can get a little bit annoying, but you almost tune out to it when you start getting to the battle scenes as well. But that's probably my only real criticism, and it's only slight. I have to say that it's only a slight criticism, but that's easily fixed. Otherwise, I've really enjoyed the couple of hours I've put into it. It's fantastic. It plays really well. I haven't tried it out since I've done the 60 frames per second, but I didn't have any issues with the launch product anyway. On the first day it was on Game Pass, I didn't have any frame skips or anything like that to start with. So
he was the secret boss, Bully.
Or it took a bit longer than 30 seconds, but there's the secret boss comes down there. You nail that one. I don't know, did you end up getting an achievement for that, or that's just doing it for the hell of it?
Well, in my defense, the first stab was accidental, but then as soon as a health bar appeared, I went, I'm onto a winner here, and I kept going.
See, for me, I tried to shoot the rope, and then that's when it flashed red, and I got the boss meter at the top. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to keep shooting, and then when you drop it, and he's like, I guess that was kind of a secret boss to be killed. So yeah, well done.
Well, see, I'm the only one out of the three of us that didn't kill it, so I don't know whether further down the track in the game it's going to come back to bite me in the backside. But
I really hope it does, Billy. I can't wait to find out if it does. It would be phenomenal if that was actually changed the story direction somehow.
Somehow, with the way the story goes, I doubt it.
Well, probably not, but whether you have to fight them again or something when they're not chained up to a rope or something, I don't know. We'll see how we go. But it's funny. The reference to Fallout in that we were talking about before, when you kill that kid that's not a kid, it's funny. It's almost has shades of Fallout to it.
Definitely.
And it's not just the graphical or the setting, I should say, not the graphics itself, but the setting that it's in, but it's got some of that, like you can sort of just go around and do whatever you want, sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you want to kill that secret boss that was hanging from the thing, go ahead and do it. If you want to shoot someone, go and do it. The only thing I will say is there's some. I think we jokingly refer to them as Care Bears, but they look like demented, drug-addled, homeless Care Bears is probably the best description. And I want nothing more than to shoot one of those in the face, and it just will not allow me to do it.
Don't worry, Bully. You've seen.
Did you blokes end up picking the blue or the red door at the start there? I picked the red door. I'm just wondering if there's any difference.
I started blue, then went with red, and I'm so glad with my thing because blue's so pissed off that I flicked over to red eventually.
I think I did whichever one was on the right-hand side is the one.
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah,
That's
red.
the one. We all went red. Let us know, viewers, in the comments. Did you go blue? If so, what happened?
Well, and just a word of warning: if you play this game around your kids, it may look all cute and fun, but this game swears a lot.
Oh yeah,
don't do it.
Oh yeah, I think my wife came down at one point and goes, "What is going on in here?" And I said, "Oh, just could you just keep the kids out of here for a little bit?" They're dropping f-bombs left, right, and centre, and there's some fairly crass commentary that comes out of that gun's mouth. So,
I think the knife. Unky, you tell me. Does the knife take the cake for most crass comments in the game? He must.
I think he does. He takes a little bit of a backseat because obviously by the time you're using him as a melee weapon, he's not as verbal as the others. But there are some other boss kills and stuff that he gets involved in that he's quite crass. And I can't wait for you guys to see sort of where some of the story goes and some of these creative boss fights they do. Some of this stuff this game does is just phenomenal, and you haven't even seen half of it yet.
I love it. Now, obviously, Unky, you haven't finished, so subject to change, but where are you sitting score-wise on this one?
Oh, this is sitting at a 9.5 for me at the moment because I've just had a flawless experience. It's been so much fun. I reckon it's just such a polished experience. In this day and age where every game seems to want to go for longer and longer, a game that sort of goes for that 10 hours, you can just sort of sit there, play it for a weekend, have fun, finish it, is just right up my alley at the moment because you don't have time. I'll speak about it later. I just finished God of War. Such a great game, but so long to finish. Something that you can just sit down and have this much fun with so quickly. It's easily up there as a 9.5 for me.
Nice one. And on screen there's the three blokes who are streaming for a living and they can't quite differentiate. Are we on camera now? Is this real life or is this the show? I don't know what's going on. If you see those blokes on screen, stick around and listen to what they have to say. It's absolutely hilarious. I love it. And what about you, Bully? Score-wise, are you sitting anywhere or is it too early to tell?
Oh, probably a little bit early to tell, but initial impressions, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8 at this stage. Yep. As I said, there's a couple of little things here and there, but overall, really good game. And the reality is, it's a day one Game Pass release. Again, I know we like to occasionally give our best mate a bit of a clip here and there, but the offerings that Game Pass are putting out recently, including the day one sort of stuff, and you compare that to the revamped sort of PS Plus offerings, and I use that term loosely, offerings, because it's been trash basically since it released. It's night and day, and again, without this skewing off into a whole another thing, that they really need to be careful with what they're doing. PlayStation, Xbox again coming up with the goods.
Yep, absolutely. I agree completely. And for me, Unky, I'm sitting right there with you, mate. About 4 hours in, but I'm 3 to 4 hours in, sitting on a 9 currently. This has been the most entertaining game, humorous game since the South Park RPGs, and I absolutely love those. So, absolute winner for me. And if you're on Game Pass, you're crazy not to check it out. If no one else has any closing comments, we'll move along, shall we?
No, let's do it.
All right, then. Game 2 this evening. I'll take the lead on this one. Thanks, boys. It's the Forsaken demo. And I got to say, this PlayStation 5, they announced it and dropped it in the Game Awards. The demo, that is. Obviously, the game's been known to be in existence for some time. And the demo ran about 35, 40 minutes. And the first 20 minutes were a bit slow for me, and I couldn't quite get the hook. You can see there, if you hold circle and run forward, you do like this parkour sort of free running movement. The first thing I want to draw everyone's eye to in this game is, does this look, Bully, I'm going to ask you, mate, does this look a lot like Sonic's open world to you? Just the green and the way the world looks around her? I was instantly taken back to Sonic.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and even the movements in that first section that you showed just then, very much so. Much so.
I couldn't believe how Sonic referential it was. And so you've got 2 power sets, and this is where it changed for me. For the first 20 minutes, I just used her abilities, which is casting magic, and the game was not doing it for me at all. And I don't know. And then, sorry, at the 20-minute mark, you switch over your power set and you can start to sword wield. And I got to tell you, once you're sword wielding, this game goes from about a 5 to about a 9. As soon as I got those, I think they were there from the start, but as soon as I stumbled across them, because I refused to read anything and just fumble with the controller, once I worked out the sword play was there, this game really turns it up. You're about to see the footage change in a minute, and it's absolutely phenomenal. My first question, Unky, have you played it?
Yes, I have, and I'll just correct you. I think you said Forsaken. It's called Forspoken, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, well, Forsaken, Forspoken, tomato. Bully, have you got hands on with this one, mate?
No, I haven't, but I've actually been pretty interested in it, to be honest with you. I've seen some of the gameplay footage previously, and I'm not really one that, if I've got a bit of interest in something, I won't play the demo of it. I'll just sort of wait until release and it sort of gets patched up and put together properly and then released properly. And I think it comes out, for my understanding,
Jan 23 next year.
Yeah, I was going to say early next year. So
I only know that because they flashed it up about 8 times during the demo.
Yeah, well, that's so it's only sort of, what's that, about 6 weeks away.
Sonic, look at the Sonic look. Anyway, keep going.
It's only about 6 weeks away that we have to wait. So I'm keen for it, but I'm not that keen that I want to play through a demo and see how it is. It's probably got
Sonic.
It's piqued my it's probably piqued my interest anyway, because it's a Square Enix game, and I've love a lot of what they put out anyway. So it's probably, I don't know if it's going to be a day one, but it'll probably be pretty close to it. But I mean, the only other thing I've seen is some of the frame rate dips and I don't know whether you guys have experienced it, some of the frame rate dips in the actual demo itself. So hopefully in the next sort of 6 or 8 weeks until release, they patch that out, and probably that's at that point when if it's not done at release date, if it's done fairly shortly after that, that's probably when I'll jump into it, and when they've sort of fixed that up, especially with some of the graphical effects and that sort of stuff that seem to be all sort of running at the same time, and then you get the enemies and all that sort of stuff on, is going to drop your frame rate a bit, which is not ideal in these sort of games.
No, absolutely. It's critical. Unky, as you're the one that's played it, mate, I want to ask you, who or what, where is the male voice coming from? Oh, wait, before you answer, I've got to say, whoever wrote Tony Stark's script, whoever nuked Need for Speed Unbound script, they've been back at it again for the Forsaken script. My God, what is going on with script writers? This is going to be a fantastic podcast game. Gameplay, phenomenal. Script and banter between Unky. Who is it? It's the girl, and who's she talking to? Is she psychotic?
No, it's in her bracelet. She's got a bracelet with these things talking to you too. So it's, they do an intro video to the game where they sort of really explain it very quickly, because
was that in the demo, or is this other marketing you've seen?
No, it's in the demo. Before, when you start the demo, they sort of give you a quick flashback of everything that's happened. I'm assuming of all the stuff you're actually going to play in the main game before you hit this point, because
I shouldn't have buttoned through that.
Nah, probably not. They sort of just set up the demo so you sort of know what's going on, which does make this demo hard to sort of play because you are sort of dropped into the thick of it. Sort of, and they've sort of I think shoehorned tutorial stuff in, which would normally be sort of towards the start of the game, anyways, to sort of get you to grips with the game itself. So for me, that was the hardest part of the game. As you said, the first 20 minutes is very sort of a little bit arduous about trying to figure out what's going on with all the buttons, and you sort of you don't figure out that whole sword mechanic and switching over the abilities until a little bit further into it.
When did you flick it? How far in were you when you worked out you could flick over the sword? Was it like 2 minutes? Did it pop up on screen?
I'm pretty sure they got me to do it during the tutorial. So I did it there, and then I was flicking back in between the two pretty regularly and using both abilities back and forth through the combat. So I actually really enjoyed sort of mixing up her combat and the whatever she's getting it from somewhere else, their combat as well.
Well, I assume it's the psychotic, her split personality, the bloke's who's very whingy for no reason.
Yeah, he's very whingy, and she sort of says a lot of stuff as well that's a bit like cringy as well.
Yeah, it's full of it.
I can see it sort of growing on you the more if you've played it and you sort of get the sense of the story where it's all going and
not a
how
chance.
She fits into this world, whereas we've just been dropped straight into the fantasy world, whereas I understand she comes from regular world into this world. So, but she drops a lot of F-bombs which seem out of place and all that stuff, trying to sound cool and all that kind of stuff, which grated on me a little bit. But as you said, though, once you start sort of hitting that circle button, sprinting around and doing all the combat and stuff like that, stuff's fun. And the world to explore is pretty. Like, it's got some really nice grass textures going on.
Look at this. The old towers from Breath of the Wild.
I think it looks a lot better than Sonic does graphically when you're actually in the world. But I was quietly more confident coming out of my demo by the time I'd finished it and rolled credits on the final boss you get to fight. That I was like, oh, maybe I am into this game, because at the start I was like, nah, do I just put down the demo? But no, I'll push through and just finish it. But when I was looking at all the check markers and doing all the stuff in the open world and all that kind of stuff and unlocking abilities and different outfits for her, which gave you different stuff. My only gripe throughout that whole thing was some of that font. You cannot read it to save yourself on the screen. It is tiny.
I've got a pro tip for you, mate. Don't read anything that ever comes up on screen.
Well, I mean, that's... I mean, some games have manuals that you don't read, so I
don't know what you're talking about.
No, I knew I was in trouble initially from that initial opening menu screen where the font's like this weird yellow color and you can barely see it in the backdrop of the actual screen itself.
And now, to the new viewers out there, I'll let you know, if Unk is complaining about the font size on screen, there's a real issue, because his monitor is the size of most walls. Yep. He has a massive monitor, and if he can't read it, you on your standard human-sized monitor have zero chance of reading it.
It's ridiculous. I don't know whether it's not only the size, but it's the way it sort of contrasts with the color and stuff in the font. There was nothing in accessibility options to change that or anything. So maybe that's something they can look at doing before the full release of the game in January. But that was my main gripe with it. I think when the game finally comes out, if you can get over the sort of hokey dialogue and all that kind of stuff, I think there's actually going to be quite a fun game here.
There is no question. I'm picking up this game day one. The first thing I'm doing is opening the audio menu and dragging down the voice slider to 0. I don't want to hear from her. I don't want to hear from her psychotic male sidekick. I've got no interest in their story, but give me that sword power and let me loose in this open world. And my God, I can see at least 100 hours going into this game. This game is fun if you mute it. It's so much fun. I can't speak highly enough of the freedom of movement. The parkour system is phenomenal. When I finally worked out how to switch powers to the swords, which you're about to see in a minute, I'm going to cut to the sword play. So this is okay. Like throwing the spells bit, I was thinking very Harry Potter. I was imagining this would be the wand play in Hogwarts, the upcoming Hogwarts game. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of fun, but it wasn't going to be a day one purchase for me. But the second I worked out how to pull out the swords and started cutting fools, sign me up day one. And as we've already said, like the Breath of the Wild, those go up the towers, scout around, place your markers, look at all the different there's like mini bosses and stuff in the world. You get to scope them out from the towers, drop a marker, run off and explore it. It's absolutely phenomenal. Gameplay 10 out of 10 once you get it working. But my God, the script is horrendous. Bully, any thoughts from anything you've seen or heard?
Not really, but as I said, I've still got a bit of interest in it. I'll just wait and see how it sort of pans out closer to release, I guess.
So you haven't pre-ordered this from Amazon?
I'm going to try and keep this PG. Amazon can take a long leap.
Very good. What about you, Unky? From what you played through to the end of the demo, or you just went hands-on for a bit of it?
I played through to the end of the demo. Finished that. You finish the demo, then they give you an extra optional boss to fight, and I've done that as well. So I've definitely had my time with the demo, and then I ran around a little bit as well, kicking some grunts' heads in. So this has probably pushed its way. It wasn't going to be, but since playing the demo, I'm probably at day one now.
Yeah, you and I both, man. Now, this is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, isn't it?
That's correct. Yep.
And definitely no PS4 backwards compatibility shenanigans.
No, I believe this one's PS5 exclusive only, and I can see why.
Yeah, well, I didn't.
It's actually got a 2-year exclusivity console deal.
Oh, nice one. Thanks, Bully. Pro tip. And here you go now. I've finally worked out how to pull the sword. So keep watching the screen now, and you're going to see some slashing and dashing, and it's all sorts of fun. Look at that Sonic. That just takes me instantly to Sonic, that parkour running. And I'm not dissing it. I absolutely love the freedom of movement in Sonic, and they've nailed it in this as well. I think it's brilliant.
I really have. Like, most games think you need to mount like a horse or something, but you just don't. Once you hit that circle and the way she runs, it just feels really good to run through the world.
It really does. The only thing they need, Unky, is a auto sprint button. My old man hands do not appreciate having to hold circle the whole time pushing forward on that left thumbstick.
Agreed.
It should be circles in by default and just let me push forward and do the parkour running. But it is really something else. I cannot recommend enough to anybody out there who's got a PlayStation 5. Download this demo. We said earlier on the last game, I think it was a 31 or 32 gigabyte download for this demo. And I honestly don't know where those gigabytes are. Like it's an open world, but it's maybe 1/12th, not even, 1/20th the size of Elden Ring, and it's 30 gigs. I don't understand why this demo clocks in at 30 gigs. I can't imagine. And I don't know if you saw earlier in the demo, I found the edge of the world and I was running along the edge of the world.
The exact same thing you did there. I was looking at it. I did the exact same thing at the exact same point.
And I'm like, so obviously, it's a very boxed in experience, and it's fine because you get to experience enough of it. And once again, if you've got a PlayStation 5, do yourself a favor, download this. Even if, like me, so incredibly skeptical of the game from everything we've seen prior. But once you get the sword rocking and you get that parkour movement, and you've got to get through the first tutorial bit. And now, Unky, sorry, I meant to come back to that. The point you said, you thought it was like a really short tutorial section, and they've shoehorned it into the start of the demo.
Yep.
But I thought the tutorial section was dragging on too long. So if we go through a tutorial section in the full game that's any longer than that, I will be incredibly disappointed.
I don't reckon it'll go longer. I reckon it'll be more spread out in terms of what you're learning. I think you'll do stuff at the start, which might just be sort of simple mechanics. Then later on, you'll learn stuff. You won't learn everything all at once, which is what draws it out, I think, at the start of this demo. So I think you'll just learn bits sort of a bit more, organically.
That's a fair call. Oh, now, okay, I'm about to go shoulders deep in about 30 crocodiles. Did you hit the 30 crocodile pit as well?
I did not know.
Check it out, man. I'm about to. Oh, here's the sword play that I've been waiting for. It's not spell casting, obviously, but it's just takes me back to Dark Souls. You break out the sword, light attack, heavy attack, hold it down, charge it up, smack them around, hit multiple targets at once. That sword is something else. You got to get your hands on it. Down there ahead of me, you can see the markers on that end boss that Unky was referring to earlier. Oh, I should note as well, once you kill the end boss, like the demo ends and they tell you again, January 23rd, the game's coming out. Give Jim Cryan $153 for the Ultimate Edition. No thanks, Jim. Hard pass from me on that. Unky, are you eyeballing that Ultimate Edition?
Oh, I've already paid for it, Troy.
Oh!
No, I'm joking.
Bully, cue the whales!
I'm joking. I'm joking. No. I didn't pay the money just yet.
Cat's in the room, isn't she?
But it'll come out of your account on the 21st of January.
Can't afford. I've got to pay for that infringement notice you gave me earlier.
But anyway, here's the crocodile pit. So it's down next to that boss. And look at them. There's just 30. But I honestly spent 10 minutes here just fighting 30 crocodiles and loved every minute of it. This is how you know they have nailed minute-to-minute gameplay. And check it out. You can summon 2 minions with you that are fire. But not only that, I found while fighting these 30 crocodiles, you can keep pulling that trigger. Like it's got a cooldown of, I don't know, 20 seconds or something, but you pull the trigger for 2 minions, and then you get 4, you wait another 20 seconds. I had 6 minions running around killing crocodiles with me while I was just laying into them with the flame blade. My God, this was so fun. And those finishes, phenomenal. You must play this game. You must play the sword power, and you also must mute it. And we must move on to, Bully, it's over to you, mate, for your game of the decade, century. How far do you want to go, mate?
Well, I don't know how far I do actually want to go with it, but The Witcher 3, greatest of the decade, greatest of all time, I would have thought.
Fair enough.
It's I'm almost. Well, my first point is, and I know I did the Let's Play of it yesterday. I started on the Death March, but whether I continue on that is an entirely different story. Whether I've got the time and the patience to put in for it, but obviously it's been released on the PS5 and the Series X with the upgraded visuals. As you log into it, it actually gives you a breakdown of what the enhancements are. So you've got either performance mode at 60 frames per second, or you've got the graphical mode, which targets 30. As I said on the Let's Play yesterday, I think you really want to be doing, for this particular game, really want to be doing the performance mode, because you need to be dodging, you need to be doing the signs.
Definitely.
And the combat and all that sort of stuff. I did notice during the tutorial part, and you can see it on the video, there's a tiny little bit of screen tearing when you're actually fighting.
Wait a minute, Bully. Is that the live Let's Play that's available one video back on the channel?
That is the live Let's Play. That's the first Let's Play that Bully's done solo. So like it, enjoy it, have fun with it, and if hopefully it's not a one-hit wonder, and I can get back in there and get some more content up there for you. But
you're always welcome, mate. Jump on in.
If you have a look at that video, there is actually a little bit of screen tearing as you're using your sword when it actually connects with the enemy that you're fighting. Hopefully that sort of works itself out, and that was just part of that initial section. But in terms of some other things, so they've got additional content in there for, obviously they've had, I think they're up to series 3 of the Netflix series. They've got
sorry, 3 series are out, or series 3 is the next one out?
3's the next one out, I think.
Check.
So they've got, obviously, the story in the Netflix series is a bit of a departure from the game, and probably more reflects some of the books that were originally written. But what they've actually done is taken some of that storyline and added additional quests into this game as well. So you get that. There's mods that have been created by some of the community as well, that they've actually identified some of the better ones and brought those into the game and utilized those as well.
Sorry, I had no idea that was a thing. Can you just rattle off a couple? What are we talking about? What do the mods do?
I haven't looked into it at this stage, but and it was just on that splash screen when you first load it up. But I think
did you have to read something?
Yeah, I can't read.
I think 4K textures. 4K textures is one of the mods I think you can use.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think it's the texture upgrades is probably one of the things that have integrated into it. So there's that, and I haven't gone and had a look at any of the other mods. You've got a cross-play sort of feature. So if you own it on either PC, Xbox, PS5, whatever you've got it on, if you want to start it, admittedly you do have to create an account with a CD Projekt. But if you start it on a PS5 and for some reason that blows up and you want to start playing it on the Xbox, you can or you can use a cross save to basically go back to where you were. So there's that sort of stuff in there, and there's also improvements with the UI and the control scheme as well that they've thrown in there as well. So a lot of enhancements, and to get that for free, what are we, 7 years down the track from the original release, that they're still actually putting the time and effort into this, and giving it away for free for people that already own it. And if you don't, it's fairly cheap anyway on digital stores, or if you were to go and get it physically, you can get it at a fairly cheap price. So for them to offer that, I think is kudos to CD Projekt. I know they have probably a little bit of goodwill to earn back after the debacle that was Cyberpunk's initial release on especially the PS4 version. But amazing job by them. As I said, to give it out for free and the improvements they've done. It's not just slapping a couple of graphical tweaks on it or that sort of stuff. They've actually gone, almost the whole hog on it. So
check out this sunrise or sunset. Look how beautiful it looks. Sorry, mate. Continue.
No, and I was going to say that the graphics and it was always a really good looking game, but I can't remember it being this good. And
Yeah.
if you have a look at that Let's Play video from yesterday, and it's just that tutorial section where you're in the castle, but I'll show off some of the textures even in the brickwork and stuff like that. Looks amazing as you're working your way around the castle, and then some of the vistas as you look at it over the top as well looks fantastic. To be honest, if you didn't know it was a 7-year-old game and it was just being released today, you'd look at it and go that this stands up with the best of what's on offer,
shoulder to shoulder. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really just, to be honest, I'm trying to work off a couple in the backlog, but I'm really looking forward to sinking my teeth into it again. It's a meaty game. If you've got the DLC, that's also it's not included in the new package. If you've already purchased it, it'll be there as well with all
Free
those
upgrade,
with all those graphical tweaks and the upgrades and all the rest of it. So again, I'm really looking forward to getting back into it. I know I've had a discussion with you guys. My only question is, before I restarted, is do I do the Death March difficulty level because you need to do that to get the platinum, or do I just bump it down a couple of levels and just go and enjoy it for the fantastic game that it is?
Go hard, Billy. Go straight on the Death March. And I've got a wild prediction to make. I reckon in the next 4 weeks, you're going to spend 3 of those 4 weeks just playing The Witcher 3. You're going to ignore that backlog entirely.
Quite possibly. It's one of the I resisted it a little bit yesterday when it first came out, and
that won't last.
But I know what's going. I'm with you, Troy. I know exactly what's going to happen. If I put 3 or 4 hours into this, I may as well put 100 hours into it.
Yep, you're going to meet the Red Baron, and you're going to be, I've got to finish this quest, and then you'll be 20 hours in. You'll be, well, no, I can't stop.
Well, the worst part of it, I shouldn't say the worst part. The thing is, when you've done a couple of quests and you sort of go, okay, I've done. I think I'm done for the night. Oh, hang on, have I played this bloke to get his Gwent card? Oh, let's just have a couple of games of Gwent. Let's have a couple of games of Gwent and get in there and get his card and add that to my collection. To be honest, that's almost a standalone game in itself. And I know they did release it, which I think has now been removed from most of the online stores. But
they turned off the servers,
Yeah. But the Gwent game itself is on par, in my opinion, with the best of the card games that are out there. You know, we talk about Hearthstone, and this year they released Marvel Snap as well.
Marvel Midnight Suns.
No, Marvel Snap, the card game on iOS, not Marvel Midnight Suns.
I just wanted to shout out that game because it's brilliant. Sorry.
Again, that's part of the backlog, Troy. That's part of the backlog. And
forget it. Death March on.
But again, this is a couple of 100-hour game once you factor in all the DLC and all the rest of the stuff that goes with it. But you could easily spend 10, 15, 20 hours roaming around, playing Gwent, getting more cards, effectively leveling up that side of things. So it's almost a game in and of itself.
Across Xbox and PlayStation previous generations, I reckon I've easily put 350 to 400 hours into The Witcher 3, and booting it back up now, I can feel it calling another 150 hours out of my life. And you know what the best thing about it is, Bully? I've only put maybe 4 hours into it so far, but I haven't met one whinger in it.
No, there's no whinges.
There's no whinges. The script was written back when boys were men and women ate their young. It was the thing of beauty.
Well, but this is the thing, and this is why I put it up there on the pedestal, because in terms of, yes, there's a couple of issues with the gameplay, but it's nothing you can't work around. The story is amazing. The setting is amazing. The exploration is amazing. There is
Thanks to the patch, the graphics are amazing.
And now the graphics are even better than what they were, and they weren't bad to start with. So there is nothing in this package that doesn't scream top tier and one of the greatest games of all time ever made. And just as a side note, they're redoing the original Witcher game, which was only ever released on the PC, and hopefully that stands up to this sort of standard that they've set with this re-release, because if they do, that's probably another couple hundred hours I'm sinking into that one as well.
I agree completely, mate. I think my Christmas holidays, just between you and I, will be taken up by predominantly The Witcher 3. As I said, I put 3 to 4 hours in already, and it's the hooks are well and truly in me. I picked up Gwent. I don't think I've played Gwent since 2017, and I instantly remembered all the moves, and I was straight, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Gwent, isn't it? I haven't said the wrong game.
No, Gwent.
Yeah.
Gwent, the
I
card
fired it back up, and because I hadn't thought about that game in years, but as soon as I saw the board, I went, oh, here's 20 hours of my life. Unky, we haven't heard from you, mate. Have you gone hands-on? What are your thoughts?
Witcher is good. Now it is better.
A man, a few words. Any questions, Willie?
No, but I will say this. In follow-up to our earlier little jingle jangle that we had at the top of the show. If you are ignoring us playing multiplayer to play this, I'll let that slide.
Pretty sure that's what happened.
If he platinums it, Willie, if he platinums it on the Death March difficulty, will you revoke the 4-point infringement?
No.
Perfect. Shall we move on, gentlemen?
We shall.
All right, then. Game 4. It is over to you, Unky, for the Callisto Protocol.
Now, I know you guys chatted about this game last week, and I was more than happy to come on here and wax lyrical about all you little babies getting too scared to actually play this game. But since then, I know you've all had a change of heart and actually enjoy the game. So I won't go down that track. I'll just go on and say that this is another one of those games that it's now one of my favorite games this year, and it's come very late in the year. And I know it's had mixed reception across the board, which I think you guys spoke about as well. But a lot of whinges about the combat being too hard and it being solely melee focus and stuff, I think are just wrong, flat out wrong with this game. I think if you utilize all the things this game gives you,
the glove,
combat, the glove, which we call the grip, I think you guys didn't know what it was called last week, but it's called the grip. You could use to throw enemies into either each other or different parts of the environment to like string them up on spikes in one foul swoop. Or if you upgrade the glove, you can literally throw enemies and they will die straight away because you're throwing them at a much greater force, which I've now done. So, but in utilizing the glove to sort of separate enemies away from you, so you can deal with one-on-one melee as opposed to dealing with multiple one-on-one melee, which is I think where a lot of people have had the issues saying that as soon as you got more than one enemy with melee, then it becomes messy and it's hard to do. But I think that's part of the game. I think you're trying to actually utilize these other mechanics to separate yourself to go one-on-one.
Sorry, can I jump in and just say this has been my favorite moment in the game so far? This very moment you can see on screen right now where they turned it into, Romancing the Stone, the water slide sequence.
Yes.
I loved it. Sorry, Unky, back to you.
No, that's right. And they do another moment like this in Outer Space where you're sort of trying to move out of the way of space debris and stuff as well. So they do change it up a bit. I can see, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's too actiony and I'll prefer my survival horror stuff. I actually quite like the mix of survival horror and action more so than just the slow survival horror stuff with lack of ammo. This has got a lack of ammo, but you've always seemed to have got enough if you're smart with what you're using it for. And it's got really good upgrades and stuff if you utilizing the inventory system properly and going around the hidden corners to find the sort of stuff to sell to get yourself the credits to upgrade your abilities and stuff. So sometimes I'll not take a whole bunch of ammo so I can hold a whole bunch of the credit stuff that I can then cash in to then upgrade my main abilities. So right now I'm finding the game much easier than probably a lot of other people because my abilities are so much higher than what they might be.
Do you have any pro tips as to the order of which you need to upgrade things?
Not necessarily. It depends more how you're playing the game. Like I upgraded my main pistol all the way straight away because I found getting a lot of ammo for that was quite easy. Having a secondary fire function now where it fires almost like a rocket bullet as well. I think it uses 2 regular ammo to fire this like rocket bullet to destroy enemies almost in one go. So that was good. And then I've upgraded my grip, so I've got more ability to use that. The melee weapon now I've almost got it full as well, so it's doing more damage. It's got different things. So if you're in the middle of a melee combo and an enemy tries to block you, it'll either break their arm. But now, if you sort of upgrade to the higher tier, which I've done, you can potentially break them in half as well and get essentially a one-shot kill. So there's all these different options for upgrades and stuff that I think a lot of people just lean on that melee weapon and don't utilize these other abilities. Like the quick shot gun thing is quite a good thing as well, where it'll give you that little reticle to sort of blast very quickly. Sometimes it can be inaccurate, but it does sort of give you some breathing space to sort of lay into some more melee combat. But no, the only frustration I've had this game, as I was speaking to Bully before the show, is the last boss, which I'm up to now. So it's a multi-phase boss, and I've gone into the last phase of this multi-phase boss with a checkpoint where I've got very little health at the start of this checkpoint. So I've got to kind of sort of get to a place to inject myself with my health, which I still think's my least favorite thing is how long it actually takes to inject your health. Whereas Dead Space, I think you could just hit a button and your health would go back up if you've got one of the vials.
I've found that really adds to the tension, though, mate.
It does add to the tension, but when you're fighting a boss at the end that's very fast and throws stuff at you otherwise, and you just need that moment of respite just to get that health, and it's very hard to do, especially when it's checkpointed you at a point where you've got no health. It's just very frustrating.
Are you tempted to knock it down to easy just to get it off the backlog? Or
I did have that thought, especially was that there was that rumor going around that you could jam up the difficulty right at the end and get the achievement to pop for finishing on the hardest difficulty. So if that's still there, then maybe I will. But the pride in me says leave this game on normal, because before we went live tonight, I had one go at this and I was so close to beating him. So I'm not far off. It's just grading me just a tiny bit with that checkpoint system just right at the end. But fantastic game, massive fan of Dead Space. This is a great spiritual successor, and I just cannot wait to see what they do with the next game. This is the first game out of this studio from the guy that previously brought us Dead Space, and I think, this is just a perfect platform to set himself up for a very good sequel.
is this a symptom of COVID, mate, or do you often have two games where you're up to the end boss and just not finishing the game?
No, it's kind of, I finished God of War today, which was my main thing to do before our game.
So you had 3 on the go.
I had 3 on the go, so I've gone very close to finishing 3 games. I really wanted to have Callisto and God of War done today, but I couldn't do it. And obviously High on Life as well, very close to finishing it. So, no, made my point of call to get God of War done with Game of the Year discussions. I thought one of us should probably finish it before that happens. So I went and did that. But this game, it's easily in my top 10 this year. I'm a massive survival horror fan, and I can't wait to see what the studio does next.
All right, and I've got one for you, boys, because we haven't heard my stupidity in gaming recently enough. I didn't realize until today, and I think I'm about 5 to 6 hours into this game at this point. I didn't twig until 5 to 6 hours in that you had to hit X to open the doors. I honestly thought the doors automatically opened and the PS5 was taking forever to load the room behind the door, because some of the doors auto-opened. Enough of the doors auto-opened that I thought all doors auto-opened, and you just had to wait. And I could tell you, they eventually do auto-open, but it takes about 20 seconds. And I was screaming at this game, what's going on with the performance? This game is trash. 20 seconds to open a door. What's going on? And then today it tweets me, what happens if I hit X, the interact button? Oh, the door opens straight away.
This is the same guy that Platinum Elden Ring, everyone. Just that's what you're dealing with.
And didn't realise Tunic had a manual.
Yep.
Look at me just standing there, and I'm going, get my door open! Why won't you open?
No, Tunic guy and door guy is definitely the same Troy.
100%. Sorry, Bully, have you gotten hands on any more? Look at me still trying to work the door out. Bully, have you gotten hands on any more with Callisto this week?
Oh, I have. I've been. I think I said last week that I was sort of putting an hour and a half in each day, and that was sort of doing me. And to almost that point that Unky was saying, that I understand that some people have a bit of frustration with it, and there was a couple of points I sort of did, and then I'll put it down and I'll come back the next day, and you get through that section, and I was, that was relieving some of that sort of stress or issues or concern I had with sort of playing it, just sort of doing it an hour each night, playing through it. Couple of things I'll say with the combat is the thing with when you, it's not very often that you're actually presented with 2 or 3 enemies or more at the same time, I've found, and the times that you are, it's almost like it's telling you at that point that you need to do stealth and you need to work your way through the area or the room that you're in. it's very rare that it actually will put you in a position where you have to fight 3 or 4 enemies at the same time and work your way through that. I've sort of found, unless Unky's seen something a bit further in the game than I am, and I'm probably, we had the discussion just before the show that I'm probably maybe a little bit more than halfway through it. So that's the way I sort of found it, is if it gets overwhelming, you can stealth your way through and pick off a couple of those enemies and then end up just fighting 2 or 3 instead of the 4 or 5 or whatever it is. And the other part with the combat as well is it's very fluid. I've almost found is that if you get into a melee situation, as Unky said, you can have a couple of shots and you can dodge the incoming attack, and then if you can knock them sort of off their feet a little bit, then you can start shooting at them, and that sort of puts them off to the side for you to then be able to tackle the next one, and you go through that same process again. You knock them off their feet. And you can do that either by 3 or 4 light melee attacks, or there's a big heavy melee attack that you can do that normally knocks them off their feet straight away, and then you can go straight into the gunplay. So it's just a matter of working through that. And I think there was one section early on before I'd sort of worked that out that I found it a little bit frustrating to get through. But once you sort of work through that, I didn't have an issue. And in relation to the where Unky was saying with that save point where he's up to that last boss, if you actually go into, and I found this out not long ago, is if you go into your save files and it auto saves, it actually doesn't auto save one file. It auto saves about 10 files. So if you get to a point where you think you're stuck, or you can't, you don't have enough ammo, you don't have enough health, whatever it is, you can actually go back 2 or 3 checkpoints to a point where you can get that health, or you can redo the section that you were sort of maybe struggling a little bit with, and work your way through it to a point where you maintain a bit more health and you conserve some of your ammo. So that's another way around it as well. If you find yourself getting into that position where you think you're stuck, just drop it back a couple of checkpoints and work your way through it that way. And then you can do a bit more exploring. You can get some more ammo, you can get some more health packs, or that sort of thing, and then work your way back up to where you were to start with. So that's another way around it as well, just in case you find yourself getting sort of almost pigeonholed into a position where you don't think you're going to be able to get through it. But overall, I reckon this is an amazing game.
Pro tips there on the autosave, Bully. Thanks for putting those. And let me grab your feelings this week, score wise.
8.5.
Fair call, Unky.
Yeah, I'm probably again 9.5 for me. It's my genre. I love this kind of stuff, so I'm probably a little bit biased. But yeah, 9.5 for this for me.
I'm going to say it's a steady boil up to me. It's sitting about a 7.5 at the minute. But as you sort of alluded to earlier, Unky, this game has really turned a corner for me. Last week I was very much off it, but this week I don't know. I've come good.
And it gets better.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. It's come good. I'm keen to play it. I'm keen to play more of it. And the water slide section just absolutely sold me on it. And you've said there's more of that to come. So sorry. Any final thoughts there, Unky?
No, just if you like your survival action horror, then definitely give this a go, especially if you're a Dead Space fan looking forward to the remake in Feb.
Oh, yes. Bully, final thoughts, mate?
Don't let the negative press put you off is all I'll say. I think some of the if you look at Metacritic, and I'm not always a big fan of that, it's not scoring overly well, and I think that's fairly big part to do with some of the major gaming websites. I think GameSpot gave it a 4. I don't know what sort of crack you're smoking if you're giving this a 4, but maybe go and get yourself a new job.
Yeah, well, I think a few of them have to. Weren't there a few layoffs?
Well, they should. If that's the tripe that they're punching out, they should. There's no way this is a 4. Not in God's green earth. I can understand a 6 or a 7. I can understand where you come to that point. But if you're throwing out a 4 for this, you need your head read, and you need to go away and find some other job to do, because you're an absolute disgrace to the industry.
Fair enough. I love it. That sums us up beautifully, I think. Gentlemen, shall we move on to the news?
Let's do it.
You have the right to remain newsworthy. First up this week. Oh, I've got the wrong tab open. My apologies. First up this week is the biggest announcements from the Game Awards 2022. Unky, over to you, mate.
Mate, I don't know about you, but I sat there and watched the Game Awards that night, or that day. It was for us. I think it went live about 11:30, and was eagerly awaiting all the announcements and stuff. So we got quite a few good ones. So we'll go through from top to bottom here. We had Hellboy Web of Weird revealed, which was a bit underwhelming. I'm not sure if any of you guys watched the trailer at all for that one. think it was just a CG trailer. There wasn't too much gameplay-wise. Then we had Among Us Hide and Seek, which was a new mode coming to the Among Us game as well. So if you're into your Among Us, then there's this new mode called Hide and Seek coming out. We had Street Fighter 6. They gave us a release date, didn't they? June 2nd, 2023.
If I can jump in on that one, Bully, did they change your tune at all on Street Fighter 6?
Not a chance.
Sorry, I can keep going.
And then we had some great news with Hades 2. Massive fan of Hades 1. So the fact that we're getting a sequel to that was crazy. I was surprised they called it Hades 2. They showed this female character. I thought maybe it was going to be like Hera or something like that. But no, we're just gone straight up with Hades 2. But yeah, it's not a bad considering it was one of the indie hits of the year it came out, or 2020, I think.
Indeed.
Now, a game that I got very excited for because I was so certain it was the next BioShock, but it wasn't. It was a game called Judas, but very much of the BioShock ilk, created also by Ken Levine, who brought us BioShock. Did you guys check out that trailer? Because that was cool.
God, the trailer, hands down, best announcement. I absolutely love it. And can I get a little bit theoretical with you, gentlemen, or do we not have time?
Go on.
A quick bit of Bible bashing.
Okay, wait. Where's my apple crate? The BioShock is the commentary, all three of them, really, on capitalism and capitalism's bad. Tear it down. What I loved about Judas is it's like the current paradigm. Okay, we tore it all down. Shit, what are we going to replace it with? I love the way Ken Levine poses the question. Okay, you don't like the current system in BioShock. So why don't you tear it down and what are you left with? But then in Judas, it's, well, you have torn it down. Now what? I just think it's modern social political commentary at its finest. And I cannot wait to go hands-on and hear his point of view on it because I am so fascinated to where we're headed as a society. And I feel like he's done a deep dive into it and he's, Kojima style. He's predicting 10 years of future in this, obviously fictitious story. Any thoughts on that one, Bully?
I don't think I drew that much out of it. I didn't pay that much attention to it. I had kids running around while I was trying to watch it.
I was like, gameplay looks cool.
Oh, it looks it's awesome. Oh, there's some green stuff on there.
You blokes weren't freeze framing it and reading the little lines of text.
No, I was like, that guy's got electric hands.
See, now I hate reading stuff in games. I hate reading stuff in games, but when Ken Levine's got something to say, I am all ears and 100% locked in. Ken, what have you got for me? I break out the tinfoil hat and I'm scouring every still frame.
No, well, I mean, that's one of the things, though. I know he did BioShock 1 and Infinite. He didn't do BioShock 2, but they're two of the greatest games that have ever been released, to be honest with you. I know Infinite cops a bit of grief from time to time, but amazing storytelling, and that's the bottom line of these games. Yes, the gameplay's great, but the storytelling that goes with it. So whatever he's going to put together and what he's going to throw out, and yes, I'd take on board what you're saying is that they're sort of an almost modern commentary on American society over the last sort of 40 or 50 years. So if he expands on that or retells it or...
No, he's future casting. It looks all like what he's predicting is going to come in the next 10 years, and it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and whichever way you want to pull it, but he's obviously got his head around the commentary of society, as I've said, especially in America, and I can't wait, to be honest. And I agree with Unky. That's, when I saw this and I sort of thought, oh, hang on, this looks a bit BioShocky. And then, no, it's not BioShock, but then we found out it was Ken Levine that was putting it together. This is day one, non-Amazon ordered, going to the store to pick it up.
You actually want it in the first month, do you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure, I shouldn't say. I was going to keep PG, bugger off Amazon. Yes, I'll be going to the store day one to pick this up when and if we get the release date, hopefully fairly shortly.
Sorry, just to reiterate the point, I just want to say it appears to be a cautionary tale from a visionary. Hey, guys, be careful about this road we're heading down. It might go somewhere you're not going to be bloody happy with. That's what I pulled out of it anyway. It's super exciting. I can't wait to...
Well, I'm going to be happy where Ken Levine goes.
Oh, yes, please sign me up. Sorry, Unky, back to you with the high-speed review of this article.
No, so then we've got Bayonetta Origins, which was a new top-down version of Bayonetta. So I wasn't too excited about that one. That's not what I played Bayonetta for. Next one, Celeste Creator shows off Earthblade. So Earthblade was the new one by Celeste. I absolutely adored Celeste when it came out. One of the best games I played that year.
Can confirm it works with the arcade stick if you got the old man hands, and then it's playable for me.
Just a great game. So to see we're getting a sequel or a spiritual successor of that is great. We had the Death Stranding sequel, the not so good rumor. It's been sort of out there for a while that we're getting a sequel to Death Stranding. But this was a very cool trailer that they brought out, and I cannot wait. I love Death Stranding 1. Cannot wait for Death Stranding 2. Tekken 8 gameplay was also shown off. Another fighting game. I'm sure Bully was enamored with that one. Yep, thought so. Diablo 4, we got a release date of June 6, 2023, and from all accounts, all the people playing the beta are loving Diablo 4, and I cannot wait to play Diablo 4. Looks like Bully is equally as impressed with Diablo 4. He's got the thumbs the wrong way around, though, I think. Then we had a new clip from the Mario movie. This movie's looking so bloody good.
How good does Chris Pratt sound? No one else will say it. I will. I bloody love Chris Pratt's performance.
I love it. I think he's got the Marionisms down like just enough, like without sounding like too over the top. I think it's perfect. I think you can't have a Mario sounding the way he would in the games throughout a whole movie. I think that would grate on you something chronic, but the fact that they just got the nods here and there throughout these trailers with the wahoos and all that kind of stuff, I think he's nailing it.
Agreed completely. I can't wait for it.
Crash Team Rumble, strange new Crash game, which seems like it's a 4-on-4 fighting game. Not sure how that's going to go. Not required. No. Cyberpunk 2077 DLC Phantom Liberty tease with Idris Elba. This could be something that could get me going, I think.
That looked amazing. And I was stoked to see there was new scenes we hadn't seen from Keanu Reeves. I don't know if they got him back in the booth or it was stuff they shot originally and then they've wheeled it out for the trailer, but I was just excited to see more Johnny Silverhand.
Oh, absolutely. And if Idris Elba's there, we know what caliber actor he is. So what he's going to bring to that role in Cyberpunk, I think is going to be great. So it'll be a good reason to get back into Cyberpunk. Then we had Armored Core, Fires of Rubicon 6 announced from our Elden Ring developers.
Oh my God, how good did that look? Bully, did it light you up?
Not so much, to be honest with you.
Unky, come on, someone's got to be with me. That was the second best trailer, I thought.
Hashtag Bully hates games confirmed. No, this looks good. I reckon a new Armored Core game by FromSoft and that now with the pedigree that FromSoft's got, I think this is easily going to outsell all of the Armored Cores combined when they bring this one out. And I have all faith that From Software is going to give us a very good game, albeit very much different to what we're used to out of that studio.
And I don't hate games. Where's the pigeon simulators? Pigeon dating simulators? Where are they? Where are they? Where was the announcements?
Mate, I already told you, your game of the year is sitting on the Xbox right now. It's called Raptor Boyfriend. Go get amongst it. Then we had Final Fantasy 16 release date announced as well. June 22, 3 days before my birthday. Cannot wait for this Final Fantasy. It was a huge fan of number 15, completely 100%ed it. I was one of those ones that actually loved 15 for what it was, and I'm just loving what they're doing with this. It's the Final Fantasy 14 guys making this one. So with the amount of effort they've put into that game, and it just won a game at the Game Awards for Best Ongoing Game for a very good reason. They love what they do. They put their heart and soul into the story for that game. So to create just a single player game where they can focus on the story and the characters, I cannot wait to play this game.
Yep, agreed. Third best trailer of the day. Any final thoughts from you on this one, Bully? The whole story. We're about to move on.
In terms of
Game Awards, biggest
Game Awards. I'll start with Final Fantasy 16. I agree. I cannot wait. The timing I think is a bit weird because you've also got the Final Fantasy 7 Part 2 remake that's going to be releasing next year. So to release two of them in the same year.
Is it though? I don't know if it will.
Well, I think it has to, but a bit odd if it does. In terms of the whole Game Awards itself, though, just to point out, so I know we've only spoken about the games, but the awards themselves, I think a couple of talking points out of that. The number one, can someone please get Christopher Judge off stage?
No. Yes, it went for a while, but I was literally in that whole speech. I loved it.
I don't think it was the platform for it, but my God, if he did an hour-long interview on a podcast somewhere, sign me up. I loved what he was saying. It just wasn't the venue for
100%. Have you a couple of minutes speech and bugger off? The fact that he was getting played off with the music and just kept talking over the music was hilarious.
It just got more epic because every time he kept saying something, the music got more epic. You're like, this is like out of a movie.
I was honestly waiting for the Bugs Bunny hook to come in and just start dragging him off.
I just love because I'm giving away a Steam Deck every minute or something, so he's just giving away an extra 1,500 Steam Decks.
Yeah, but not in Australia. Come on, bloody Steam, what's going on? Why isn't Australia eligible for that comp? Ooh.
Well, that's funny because that cost him a fair mint, I would have thought. Because what are the Steam Decks going for about $1,000? So
come on, Billy. Don't be a sucker, mate. That comes out of their marketing budget, which is a tax write-off. It didn't cost Steam a goddamn cent. It was just great advertising.
Oh no. But and the other thing that we didn't speak of was the game of the year, Elden Ring, obviously. And then they get up and do the acceptance speech and get gate crashed.
And the old 15-year-old old mate
by some little punk.
Bill Clinton.
Some little punk Bill Clinton lover, and then subsequently gets arrested and dragged off the stage.
And I think if you paid for the premium tier of Twitch, you could actually see a 15-minute footage of him out the back getting the shit kicked out of him by security.
Well, the funny thing was, when you say I didn't freeze frame the
Bioshock,
Judas trailer, I freeze framed and replayed when they were all up on stage, and there was this moment where each of the guys that were representing Elden Ring were standing up there going,
"Who's this bloke?
Who the hell's this bloke?" And then it flashed over to Jeff Keighley, and Jeff Keighley's looking across going, "Who's this bloke?"
How bloody... Did you see when they cut to him for his closing statement? He was clearly rattled.
Yeah.
Bring the Bring the ship into dock. We're done here, but Jesus.
But you know what the funniest thing is? Because earlier in the show, there was someone that got up as, and I can't remember what they were presenting, but it was a bizarre entry to what they were doing. Was she came up on the stage and said, "Oh yeah, anyone in this audience could be a murderer." I think it was the Among Us one. So they said anyone in this audience could be a murderer, and then she goes, "Ha ha ha! No, but statistically speaking, someone in this audience is a murderer." And then you get this kid gate crashing at the end of it, which
fantastic foreshadowing.
Well, thankfully for all concerned, it just ended up with him getting dragged out the back. But the reality is that could have gone sideways really quick, and it's getting live streamed. So that could have ended up in tears. But
can I say, I just want to jump in here now. For those who don't know, I used to work in the mainstream media in Australia, and I have done my fair share of Logies and Brownlow medals and all the rest. I've done a lot of award shows, working on the technical side of it. And I've got to say that would never have happened in Australia. There are 2 stage managers running the show, like on set, side of stage. They've got the clipboards, but those bloke, and tip of the caps to them. I'm not going to shout them out because I didn't pre-approve it, but shout out to the 2 blokes in Melbourne who run the stage show, because they know everybody who's meant to be on stage in the audience. They don't know all the hangers-oners, but they know, like, if it's a footy thing, they know all the footy players. If it's the Logies or whatever, they know all the actors. And those blokes, I've seen them spring into action. If somebody is stepping anywhere near the stage, it shouldn't be on them. They are on them, and they wouldn't have even got a foot on the first step if this had happened in Melbourne with the 2 floor managers we've got running the show down here. So my question to the Keatleys is, where were your stage managers? How did that even happen? You have cut way too many corners on your budgets. That's why you need proper stage managers. My God, Keatley, pull your head out of your keister, mate. That is not the budget to be cutting. Go cut somewhere else.
I don't think they had any stage managers. Otherwise,
that's my point.
Christopher Judge wouldn't have been up there.
100% as well. They would have been up there with the hook. But so just a shout out to Melbourne production crew. Like, that would never have happened here. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And to your point, Bully, I replayed that frame a heap, and I was looking for the stage managers. I'm like, where are the blokes like okay in this? And there was no one to be seen. I could not believe it.
No, but that's probably pretty much all I got for the Game Awards. So I suppose unless anybody's got anything else to add, we'll jump to the
winners.
The winners, or are we going to the new releases?
I'm happy to quickly run down the winners if you want to take it, Unks.
No, I can take it.
Go, man.
All right, so winners of the game. What we had? Best mobile game went to Marvel Snap. Best fighting game went to Multiverses. Best esports game went to Valorant. Best esports athlete was G.E.A. Esports team Aloud. Best esports coach Berserk. We don't care about esports. Best family game went to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Well done, Kirby. Best performance, Christopher Judge. We've spoken about his 4-hour speech. Best debut indie was Stray. Best adaptation went to Arcade League of Legends. Well done, considering Cyberpunk was amongst those that cohort. Best narrative, God of War Ragnarok. Best art direction, Elden Ring. Best VR AR game went to Moss Book 2. Best sim strategy game went to my boy Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Best community support, Final Fantasy 14. Best for Impact, Games for Impact, Dusk Falls. Great game. Best sports racing game, Gran Turismo 7. Best multiplayer game, Splatoon 3. Best audio design, God of War Ragnarok. Content creator, Ludwig. Most anticipated game, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Best
I can't
action
believe
game.
it after Sonic.
Best action game was a bit of a surprise. Bayonetta 3, considering Sifu was in for that award. Best score and music, God of War Ragnarok. Innovation, accessibility, God of War Ragnarok. Best role playing game, Elden Ring. Player's voice, Genshin Impact. Best independent game, Stray. Best action adventure, God of War Ragnarok. Best ongoing game, Final Fantasy 14. Best game direction, Elden Ring. And game of the year went to Elden Ring.
Beautiful wrap up. Let's keep the ball rolling, shall we? Unless anyone had any comments, we'll jump on into this week's game releases.
Go for it.
Boom. All right, Unky, take it away, mate.
All right, this week we've had or have got coming up Wavetail on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, December 12. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 Reunion, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That is December 13. We have G.E.A. for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, December 13. High on Life, which we spoke about earlier, December 13. Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, also on Game Pass. Neon White comes to PlayStation 5 and 4, December 13. Great game, played on the Switch. Night in the Woods is out December 13, PlayStation 5. Overland, PlayStation 5, December 13. Little Gator Game, Switch, PC, December 14. The Witcher, Wild Hunt, and the Wild Hunt Complete Edition out now, December 14. AKA Switch, PC, December 15. Blacktail, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, December 15. River City Girls, One for Bully, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And Resident Evil 7 Biohazard comes to the Switch at 13 frames per second on December 16.
Great work, Unky. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, next up will be the Standoff. But before then, we have to take an active reload. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. YouTube.com/Geek.Aloud, part 2 of Judgment Day. And it is, in fact, time for Judgment Day. Unky Dunky, my friend, shall we start with our Geek Aloud best indie game of the year on Judgment Day? How does that sound to you?
Let's do this thing.
All right, then. First up, best indie game nominee 1 is Stray. Unky Dunky. What's going on here?
Well, you know what? It got plenty of nods. Apparently, at the Game Awards for Game of the Year, it got not on there. So it's it's got to go on there for best indie game. It's one of the highest polished indie games to come out this year. It does kind of look like a first party PlayStation game, so it deserves to be on there for that. Like we talk a lot of shit about Stray, but it actually was a fun little game where the cat mechanics were at the height of their game, and it was a very pretty game. Aesthetically, it looked really nice. It was a cool little platformer, so it definitely deserves to be on this list. Bully?
Yeah, I probably question how much of an indie game it is. I reckon it was fairly heavily backed by Sony. But having said that, I thought it was a fantastic little game, to be honest. The minute that you get in there, you actually feel like you're a cat and you're bouncing around, you're scratching things, and you're just being a
Oh, nibbly bibbly.
He's jumping around on nibbly bibbly. But it made you, like, I don't know what it's like to be a cat, clearly, but this is probably as close as you're going to get to feeling like a cat. I thought it was actually a pretty good game, pretty well put together. It was a decent enough length, and I wondered prior to release how much of that sort of moment-to-moment gameplay would actually be enjoyable once you sort of got over that initial part of, controlling a cat and having them run around. But it actually worked pretty well, like conversing with the robots that were then able to understand you, and then going to those other sections where you sort of had to use a bit of stealth, you had to use a bit of puzzle solving and all that sort of stuff. I actually thought it was a really good game.
Sorry, and I should have mentioned off the top, the order of not just this category, but all categories this evening, they're from date of release. So we start with the earliest release one in the year and we move on. So 19th of July, Stray came out, and sounds like reasonable feelings from you blokes. I gave it a hard pass. I'm yet to go pause on with it. So game 2, though.
Well, pause everything else you've been doing.
Rollerdrome Unky Dunky came out on the 16th of August.
It did come out the 6th of August. Now, I know you are a massive fan of this game, so much so that you showed me your skills when you were at my joint a few weeks back. But what a cool little indie game this was. This is essentially Tony Hawk's with guns. That's pretty much the easiest way to explain it. So if you like your sort of fast-paced Tony Hawk style games, you like your third-person shooting, bang them in together, and that's what you get.
A phenomenal game, to your point, man. I absolutely love this game and play it to this day. It is really something special. If you have never gone hands-on with Rollerdrome, and everyone knows I love gameplay and gameplay first, and this game is it in droves. Bully, any thoughts on Rollerdrome?
Never gone hands-on with Rollerdrome.
Oh, that's it then, I guess. Unky, unless you got some points, we'll move on to the third contender.
Now let's go. Number 3, Indie 3 is Midnight Fight Express on the 23rd of August, 2022. This one came out, and this was a cool little indie title. This was, I know we sort of waxed lyrical about it when it came out in terms of the way it changed up some gameplay, and it kind of started out as one thing, and then it gave you this other thing sort of pretty early on in the thing. I know Troy knows what I'm talking about when it comes to jet ski change up, and it just sort of changed the way the game played, and it was just a fun little game. It was such a good looking game as well. I think the fighting mechanics worked really well as well for that style of game. I'd really love to see what they could do with the sequel, but what a fun little indie title.
Absolutely phenomenal game. I truly loved it. Shout out to the collectibles in the level, which were in fact the gold teeth of the enemies. You just had to smack them in the face hard enough to have a gold tooth fly out. 10 of those per levels. Brilliant idea. I've never seen anything like that in a game before, yet alone an indie title, bringing so much new things to the table. The way they incorporate both melee weapons and pistols and shotguns and assault rifles, like all gunplay, like ranged combat, I suppose, and close range combat. This game just feels and plays exactly the way you want it to. Fantastic indie game and available in Game Pass. If you haven't gone hands-on, you should. Bully, your thoughts?
Never really hooked me. It was one of those ones that I sort of jumped into, probably put an hour or two into it, and then jumped out and never went back to it. I can see the sort of charm to it, but it just never really got it hooked into me, and probably had other things to play at the time, and it just sort of fell by the wayside, I guess.
Fair enough and understandable. I guess that brings us to game 4, Unky Dunky.
Game 4, Indie Darling, Vampire Survivors, 10th of November. So it's recent on the books, and it's even more so recent that at the Game Awards they announced it is available on mobile devices. You'd be betting I downloaded that as soon as I saw that, and have since been playing it on my mobile device as well. But
can I ask you, mate, on that very point, does it have crossplay? Like, were you able to import your Xbox progress into the phone?
No, it doesn't. It's just a standalone game on the Android. So if you do want
my
progress,
35 hours would be to waste.
Yeah, pretty much. But it is fun just to be able to sit there on your phone. I mean, I have played a fair bit of my Vampire Survivors time using the Xbox xCloud stuff and using my mobile phone controller to play it. So I do actually get my progress from my Xbox stuff on my thing. But just being able to just grab it with one hand on the phone and just sort of walk around and play this game is just an absolute delight. What a simple premise for a game that is just so addictive, and you get way too much game time out of this game for something that costs next to nothing to get.
Oh, and check back about 20 videos on the channel at this point. You can see some real level 100 #real gamer gameplay of this. It's absolutely phenomenal. As I said, I dropped 35 hours into this. Bully, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's one of those things that you go into it, and then when you start playing it, you realize that you don't actually input to attack anything. You don't. There's no the only involvement you have in this game is maneuvering your character around and then deciding what your upgrades are. That is literally it. It basically auto shoots or auto attacks for you. You've just got to work your way through the crowds of or the swarms, I should say, of enemies, because that's what it ends up being. And I agree with you 100%, Troy. It is wildly addictive. When it gets its hooks into you, and you just go, oh gee, I got so close that time. I've managed to purchase one more little upgrade. I reckon I'll have one more go just to see if I can get to the end of it, and then you fall just short again. Oh, give it another go. I'll give it another go. It's absolutely amazing. Despite how simple it is, there is actually quite a bit of variety in it in terms of your characters and the weapons you can get and the upgrade tree that you can get in each run and that sort of stuff. I absolutely loved it. It's as you said, simple game, graphically very simple, but absolutely amazing. And it's free on the Game Pass. If you've got an Xbox and you haven't played this, I don't know what you're doing with yourself. If you've got a Android or mobile device to play it on, throw that out the window because you're an idiot playing it on that, as far as I'm concerned. But let's just move
that being said, you say it's on Game Pass. The game's what, $3 or something?
Anyway, yeah.
And shout out to all my brethren out there with an arcade stick. Vampire Survivors is perfect for the old man hands. Get rid of the controller entirely. Get the arcade stick out. As I said, just left stick only. It is an absolute chef's kiss of a game. I absolutely love it. And boys, I'm going to nominate this as our final entrant as the winner. Does anyone want to back me? This has to be Geek Aloud's Indie Game of the Year, surely.
I mean, I love cats, but I'm going to have to give it to Vampire Survivors as well.
Bully, is it unanimous?
Unanimous.
Vampire Survivors, a winner is you. Best indie game of the year, as per Gaming Enforcement Agency's Judgment Day. Unky, where does that bring us to?
Mate, we're up to Best Game Soundtrack, and sound one is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. 25th of March, this game came out, but what a delightful little game. And it is also down to the fact that it has got such a great Nintendo soundtrack throughout this whole game, and it ramps up as the game gets to its finale as well. Like, there is some absolutely epic tunes towards the end of this game. I still can't bring myself to finish this game because this thing gets near on Dark Souls hard towards the end of it, which is ridiculous. It is such a well-balanced kids game up into that very last point where you are battling boss after boss after boss. And
did you finish it, or are you running 4 games simultaneously on the end boss?
No, I'm running 4 games simultaneously on the last boss. But this was one I definitely don't think I'll ever finish because it is ridiculously hard. But what it doesn't lack is a lack of great music, because in all these fights, the music is suitably epic and suitably well styled for what you're seeing on screen. Just like the rest of the game, it starts out really cute and the tunes are they go along with that. And then sort of as the levels ramp up, the music goes along with it. It's themed differently. Like the carnival levels got sort of carnival music in it. It just does the really Nintendo thing. It just plays such a great soundtrack throughout that whole game. And it's just whimsical. It's magical. I can't say much more about the soundtrack for Kirby.
Bully, your thoughts?
I agree with you that that last boss is absurdly difficult. That level ramp on it, but if you're talking about the soundtrack itself, just absolutely fitting to the gameplay, and it doesn't matter what sort of level you're in, whether it's the carnival levels when you're in the almost overgrown cities and all that sort of stuff. Each level has its music that goes with it that fits exactly with it. Whenever you get up to a boss fight or a mini boss, or even just getting up to your normal enemies, the music just changes slightly and hastens slightly, so you feel that sense of urgency that you got to get through that. I thought it was an amazing game, and almost forgotten about, I think, in the whole scheme of the year. But um, in terms of the soundtrack itself, I thought it was amazing, and the fact that you that draws you into the gameplay and involves you as much in the gameplay as what it does, I think, is a testament to the soundtrack itself.
Let me ask you fellas this. Now, I haven't played Kirby, so I've no dog in this race, so to speak. But has this soundtrack had you listening to it outside of the game? Have you brought it up on Spotify or the like?
I can't say that it has, but there is another game on this list that actually has. So I can't say Kirby's probably going to win tonight, but it's a good soundtrack. It's just not the best one on this list, I don't think.
Fair enough. Bully, you're going to defend it from an off-game play listening to the soundtrack standpoint?
No, and the reason because is it's not something that you'd sit there and say, "Oh, I actually enjoy this music in and of itself." The fact that it integrates itself so well with the game, I think, is what makes it a great soundtrack.
Fair enough, man. Great call. All right, then. May I suggest game 2, Unky?
Game 2, we have The Quarry. I know Bully loved the soundtrack for this one, so I'll let him take this one.
Oh, absolutely amazing, and it had it had a vast variety of music, I suppose would be the best way to put it. It had, sort of soft pop. It had sort of, teen pop is probably the best way to describe it, which goes fantastically well with obviously a teen horror game. It had a little bit of country in there. It had a bit of everything to go.
It had Western as well, did it? Bit of everything?
Well, it didn't have country or Western, but so actually, what am I talking about? It's got no country or Western. Why is this a good game? But the best part of this soundtrack is that it fits in each scene that you're in. It just fits so well. So when without going into spoilers, but it's obviously it's a teen horror set in a summer camp. So there's areas where you're enjoying the summer camp and it's light and it's breezy and it's nice and fantastic. And then there's the bits where you get into where it's you get into that horror element and you're getting chased and it's not quite a survival horror as such, but you get into those sort of moments where you're getting chased and that sort of stuff, and then the music ramps up and you get that heavier music that goes with it in those sort of scenes and those circumstances, and the way it all just sort of blends together, I think is amazing. And if you're talking about something that I've listened to on Spotify and outside of the game, the Quarry is one of them. There's a couple of songs in there that I just absolutely loved, and
were they introduced to you through the game, or did you know them previous?
No, they were introduced through the game, and it's probably not. Some of them were probably not ones that I would listen to normally, but just listening to them in game when you're going through particular moments, and then go, and you might just get a snippet of 30 seconds to a minute of the actual song itself, but then you go away and listen to the whole song, and the way it's all integrated, and the fact that you can actually go away afterwards and listen to a full proper song rather than just a soundtrack musical score that goes with it. They're actual proper real songs that go with it, I think, just adds to everything as well. So I can't speak highly enough, A, of the game itself, and B, the soundtrack that goes with it. Just complements it perfectly.
Beautiful, mate. Strong showing. Unky, game 3?
Game 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge.
Wait, you forgot it. Heroes in a Half Shell.
Turtle Power. Now, this game had me downloading songs straight to my Spotify list. I reckon I've got 3 still on it that I currently have on repeat, and I just love the soundtrack of this game. This game was amazing, and it's got not all to do with the soundtrack, but every single level is recognizable by its song. And it's just so well done. They've got songs that are written just for this game. The final battle against Shredder when that song is going off is incredible. There's one, I think my favorite song is from the Sky High level where you're rocketing through the city, and it's just got one of these beats that just is in my head now. I can picture it. I love this game, and it's pretty much all down to do with not only the old school Ninja Turtles thing, and I'm a massive Ninja Turtles fan, but that soundtrack just sold the whole game for me.
100%, man. I love it. Bully, your thoughts?
100% agree. And it's funny because it had this mixture of a soundtrack that suited a modern game, but wouldn't also be out of place back in the early 90s when you were sitting in an arcade playing this game as well. So it got the best of both worlds, I think.
Yep.
And to Unky's point, I agree with you. After playing, it's probably died off a little bit, but when I was playing the game and then going away and driving to work or going around doing other stuff, and then listening to the soundtrack just made you want to get back into it and play it. And I think that's probably the biggest draw to it is if the music you're listening to then translates into your real world, that makes you then sit there and go, oh, I can't wait to get back and play this game because it was so fantastic.
Yep.
I think that's a testament to that soundtrack, that it hooks you back into the game that it was involved with.
Definitely, I agree completely. Go on.
I was going to say, shout out, Panic in the Sky is the name of my favourite song from this this thing. So do yourself a favour, download Panic in the Sky.
Second that notion. Game 4?
Game 4, what do we have? Is it Plague Tale Innocence?
Plague Tale Requiem.
Requiem, I should say. Plague Tale Requiem. Innocence
18th of October, this one?
That's right. So, no, this is one, again, Bully could probably speak to more than me, but I knew this one, it had a great soundtrack going all the way through. I understand it sort of ramps up again towards the end of the game, which I know Bully's sort of seen all the way through, and I'm probably still only halfway through. So probably hasn't quite sat or resonated with me as much as Bully. So, Bully, maybe you can speak more to the soundtrack for Plague Tale.
Oh, it's probably a particular taste is what I'll say, because and I mean that outside of the game. Inside of the game itself, it is absolutely amazing. There's orchestral music that goes with a lot of the scenes that you sort of listen to it, and it's very rare that a game plays with a soundtrack that ties into what you're actually doing at that particular time so well. And by that I mean, so if you're sneaking around, there might be some gentle harp music, and you're sort of just floating around, or you might be in a town and enjoying the market or the fair or whatever it is, and there's upbeat nice music, or when you start creeping through some of the castles and avoiding enemies, it then becomes very dark and it becomes very moody, and it sucked for that soundtrack to complement the gameplay so well, to suck you in as much as it does, to the point where, and we've spoken about listening to soundtracks outside of the game. For me, this has probably been on the biggest repeat in terms of driving around or listening to it outside of the game, as to having this music, because it's got some massive highs, it's got some massive lows, and it's got a lot of in between. And for me, and I'm a bit of a history buff, but that fact that it's set in that sort of 13th century European era, and they draw on a lot of the instruments from that sort of time period, and the way it's sort of put together, that it just helps to drop you in the moment of, you feel like being in that time period, and the fact that the music contributes to that, for mine, is absolutely amazing in this respect.
I agree with all your points, mate, and I just want to add, if I may, to it. For me, obviously, my brain runs a bit faster than it probably should, and the music in this game is really soothing, and it really helped me center on the game. It helped me forget whatever was actually going on in the world at the time, and you put it on, and then the music swells, and it really just enabled my brain to just draw in and focus. So to your point, man, that real 13th century feel, like it just, I was there and I was in it. Unlike yourself, it didn't call to me outside of the game, but the way it underscored the gameplay and helped set the scene, like, hats off to the developers. They absolutely nailed the soundtrack for when you're playing a Plague Tale Requiem. They really did something else, a unique sound. I don't even recall the soundtrack in number 1 being this good. I feel like it really stood up in the sequel, the soundtrack. It was really phenomenal.
Well, the thing is, and it almost go to the point that I know we joke that there's 2 types of music. I think there's now 3 types: country, western, and 13th century European harp music.
Nice one, Bully. Sorry, Unky. Any thoughts? Any additional thoughts? Excuse me, for Plague Tale Requiem.
No, I think you guys sold it perfectly in terms of the way the game sort of uses music to sort of help resonate with you in the way you play the game and attach you to those characters. And I think it does it beautifully.
Agreed. Now, dare I suggest that we're all going to go back to number 3? Is everyone feeling Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had the best soundtrack?
I'm all for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's that soundtrack for me. Every single level, everything about it for me.
I'm
Turtles.
all in for it. It was my most listened to beyond gaming, but I'm seeing a shake of the head from Bully. What do you have to say?
I don't disagree with you. It was fantastic. I just think that the soundtrack that lended itself best to gameplay and enhancing the gameplay for mine was Plague Tale, and we can sit here split and go with the majority, and that's okay with me. I wouldn't be unhappy with TMNT winning, but I just think in terms of enhancing the actual gameplay itself, I think Plague Tale's soundtrack does that.
I'd argue that Ninja Turtles does the same thing, though. I'd argue without the soundtrack that Turtles has got, you would not enjoy that game anywhere half as much as you do.
I agree with both of you, but
I can understand that point as well. Yeah.
And the other thing is the soundtrack of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Bully, to the point of like Requiem, like pulled me into 13th century. The soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles took me back to the arcade. That's what I loved about it. It's got that 8-bit sound, and I was even smelling the arcade, even though clearly I wasn't there. Like it was triggering smell memories, whatever the hell the correct term for that is. I've got no idea, but it really locked me into the arcade. So I think it stands up equal to Requiem for that point. But it sounds like a winner is you, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, best soundtrack of the year on Judgment Day here at Geek Aloud. Unky Dunky, where does that bring us to, my friend?
Oh, we're into the big ones now. The best looking game. Now, this one could be quite subjective, and we're gonna start with number 1. February 8th, 2022 was Sifu.
Oh, I bloody love the look of this game, Unky.
Oh, what a game. There's no secret that I love this style of game. Like, I love a sort of cel-shaded game done like this. It's just, I think the graphics lend themselves really well, not only to playability or replayability, but I think they age really well. I think this kind of graphics is ageless. I think it's something like Zelda Wind Waker, where no matter how old that game gets, it still looks good because of the way it was done with its cel shading. So this is one of those games I think will hold up to the test of time in the way it looks, and also the way it plays, because it's such a phenomenal game. But just the way it uses the art direction within some of these levels, just the club level, for instance, when you first get out of that first slums level to go into the club, and then to be walking down that hallway and all the lights just flicker, they go
the pulsing neon.
And then later on when you hit the museum and it's doing different stuff in the museum, and the way you fight within the rain coming down and different silhouettes and all that stuff, it just plays with light and color so well that I was just in awe of the way this game looked, and I played it over and over again. As hard as it was, I just did not get sick of walking through or running through or bashing through any of these environments, because they just looked so beautiful. And it was just not only the way they looked, but the way they were just sort of dressed and the way you interacted within those worlds as well. It's just his abilities and the way the martial arts worked within those confines of the spaces that you were fighting in, I just think was just masterful in the way the game looked. It was just phenomenal.
Absolutely. And big shout out to the John Wick inspired combat look, the way the camera gets in on the big hits, it shakes right on the impact moment, the camera angles, the way it looks during the fights, during those big boss battles looked absolutely phenomenal. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, look, I probably didn't put as much time into it as you guys, but 100% agree with you. It's one of those art styles it's a little bit unique, but at the same time, it's also something that's probably going to stand the test of time as well. So you're going to probably look back at this in 3 or 4 or 5 years time and still think that it's a really good looking game. So it's not one of those things that it really relies on, an up to date graphic style or technology or any of those sort of things. It actually looks good in and of itself, and I could. It's one of those few games that you can almost see translating to a TV scenario, that it wouldn't feel out of place if you were to put that up as a TV series.
Well, I think I've heard they're doing the John Wick directors, I think, making either a movie or a TV show based on Sifu, I think.
Yeah, and there you go. So it's one of those things where you sort of look at it and go, it could fit into that category pretty well. So, as I said, I didn't spend as much time as you guys, but certainly the graphical department looked fantastic.
It did look great. We'll move on to game 2, but just before we do, Bully, could you get a bit more on mic, mate? You've just dropped off a little bit in audio level. Bully, no, Unky, game 2, mate.
Game 2 is Horizon Forbidden West. It came out 18th of February. What a great-looking game. This is obviously Horizon's sequel. So it was already coming from a pretty decent spot with the first Horizon, which was great looking in its time. But this sort of took it up the next level, and it's not only a great-looking game, but it's not until you sort of see the hulking robotic dinosaurs coming your way. I think I was in awe the first time I fought that giant metallic snake in that arena. I was just in awe of what I saw on screen at that time. Just a great looking game, incredibly polished. You can't really. I've got a few knocks against the actual game itself, but in terms of the way it looks, there's not many knocks against it.
There aren't, and to your point, mate, the first time I saw the robots, and you guys made this point previously about the sound of the game, and I'll make it for the look. It's one of those times where this, the giant robotic metallic dinosaurs and birds, like they don't exist in reality. This is just purely a work of artistic fiction. But my God, do they nail it? They absolutely sell every movement of those giant beasts and the robotic sort of mechanisms pulling and pushing. It's just an absolutely stunning looking game, and big shout out to the character models, the way they're designed and the way they look while they're moving. It's just fantastic. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, to your point, Troy, I think that the way the characters and especially the enemies are put together, and the fact that one of the big selling points on the game is you've obviously got your bow and arrow that can take off certain parts of the machine, and the way that they sort of flicker, or the lighting flickers as the different pieces fall off after you've hit them, and then hit the ground, and then the enemy then continues to fight, but in a slightly different way and different attacks, and you can knock off some of their weaponry and all that sort of stuff. I think that in and of itself is amazing, but in a broader scope, that the actual world they put together is absolutely phenomenal. It basically stretches the West Coast, essentially, or the upper West Coast of the US. So you've got essentially you're starting in almost Utah or Colorado, and then you find your way working down into basically a rework of Las Vegas and the Nevada desert, and then you move across to what is essentially the remnants of San Francisco with the Golden Gate Bridge and all that sort of stuff, and then you've got the hills and the mountains up to the north. The way they put this world together is, and as you said, Troy, it's not based on anything in reality. It's based on what their perception of what the US would look like in 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, however long it is, once society collapses and we're sort of moving on and just trying to survive. And the way they put it together and integrated the technology aspects of it as well, with just the harshness of what's left of the world, is absolutely phenomenal. And probably one of the last places you see is the actual ocean. After you might have put 20 hours or 25 hours into the game before you finally hit the ocean, but when you do, it absolutely blows your socks off. To be honest, you've trekked through mountains, you've gone up, the tops of peaks, you've trekked through the deserts and all that, and jungles and all that sort of stuff, and then you finally get to the ocean and you look at the water and the effects that has, and I can't speak highly enough of this game. I think both of you know that I've put the time into it to platinum it. I can't wait for the DLC that's coming out. I just can't speak highly enough of this game as a whole. But in terms of the graphical stylings that they put together, I think it's just phenomenal.
I agree completely. I second those thoughts. Bully, Unky, any final thoughts, mate?
No, we'll go to number 3 with the game that ate Horizon's lunch.
Nom, 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 nom.
25th of February was our boy Elden Ring. Now, arguably, maybe not prettier than Horizon, but I think world design itself would probably beat out Horizon every day of the week. I think
the number one thing we've got to call out, Unky, is the biomes, the different look at those biomes.
It is. The biomes is the way it's all put together and the way it's designed. I think it's FromSoft games never look the best. They're not the leading game for graphics in the industry. What they do is create very good, believable, insanely big worlds, and Elden Ring is no exception. I think the awe that game gives you just walking through its world is just second to none. And
who will ever forget their first time going into the Elden Ring basement and the visual down there? Just the stark contrast to the upper world.
Oh, that's right. And that is a beautiful moment. Like, that is graphically phenomenal to look at. And to come down that thing and then look up in what looks like space, but you've come down, was just a phenomenal design choice, I think, that they made. And it was just one of those awe-inspiring moments in gaming, I think, for you and me, Troy, but for a lot of people that played that game that just didn't realize this part of the game was there, with all the stuff happening on top of the world, and then all of a sudden you had all the stuff down the bottom. It was just such great design, and it just looked so phenomenal. And then there's all the stuff that happens in the game that changes the way the game looks towards the end, where the tree becomes a different color and the whole world sort of has a different hue about it once you do that part of the game. And it just changes the way the whole game feels again. It just creates all these different feelings that something like, yes, Horizon looks technically better than it, but I think Elden Ring just conveys this sense of like massiveness and just world that Horizon didn't.
I agree completely, and sort of touching or contrasting it slightly with the Horizon. Horizon sort of had, I'm going out on a limb, I'm making this up, maybe 15, 16 different like base enemy types. And then of course they had their variants from there. But Elden Ring had 38 or something bosses, which all have unique looks and multi-phases where they look dramatically different. Like the art department were working full time on Elden Ring for years, and the amount of variation in content, yet all remaining on theme. Absolute shout out. Phenomenal looking game. Bully, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. The world they put together, I think, if you're looking at, if you're taking it as a world building thing, and what they put together, I think is amazing, and the fact that they've integrated so many different.
You can say it.
I refuse to.
Biomes, ladies and gentlemen. The word is dancing around is biomes.
I won't dance, I won't prance, and I will not use that word. The different areas that you can visit and explore. The fact that they put all those together, and each one in and of itself would make an amazing setting for a game. But the fact that they've stitched together, all these different areas that blend areas. that blend seamlessly, and as you said, then the whole world flips upside down when you go into the underground as well, and that they put that in together as it does look amazing. I don't probably agree with you that it's in terms of I guess the
biomes.
I'm not using the word biomes. You can keep throwing that up as much as you want, or if I refuse to use that word. But I think the more intricate details is probably what I'm looking at. Yes, it builds a great world, and yes, overall it looks fantastic. And I'm not taking away from it all, because it is amazingly well put together. But from my point of view, just those intricate sort of details as you're working through the world, for mine probably are a little bit lacking when you compare it to Horizon. Horizon's almost got those details down to a minute point in each area that you go through, whereas Elden Ring's probably, from my point of view, is an overall sort of an amazing looking game, but it doesn't have those intricate sort of details, and that's sort of where I sort of sit. And the trade-off, I guess, is the gameplay mechanics that go with it. So it's very hard to have both running hand in hand at the same time. So I think that's sort of the trade-off, is you've got this very deep mechanical system, and that trade-off is those intricate little details as you're working your way through the world.
Indeed. Unky, final thoughts on Elden Ring, or should we jump on to 4?
No, let's jump on to 4.
Tunic,
hey, Troy, you know this game's got a manual?
What? Since when? Did they patch it in recently, did they?
Yeah, no, real recent patch. Just
patch 6.8. The manual was added.
But that was part of the whole reason this game looks so good. Like, what a cool! This was part of like this game. Obviously, has a unique art style, and I think that's part what goes to the charm of this game as well. But it had this manual that was, almost like handcrafted or hand painted or hand drawn by someone just to make it look like one of those games of yesteryear that you get Nintendo 64 game. You get your manual out and you'd flick through it to actually play the game. And this game utilized one of those manuals within the game if you actually were smart enough to figure out that it had it. And I just think it was such a unique way to play that game, and it was such a unique way in the way the game looked, and it was just so charming. And it just, I can't speak highly enough of the actual way that game looked. It just felt like you were playing a top-down board game.
Well, here's my props to the look of it. Without looking at the manual, you could solve the puzzles due to their incredibly finely detailed artistic style and the way that when the puzzles were there, they were signified within the world, not even the manual, but within the world, they were signified beautifully. And you could derive meaning from just the mere look of the puzzles on the world. I thought it was absolutely a unique art style, but the art style really led into differentiating itself between enemies, main world, and puzzle pieces. It was just a beautiful job. Hats off to those developers in the art department. Bully, your thoughts on Tunic's look?
Oh, Tunic! I thought the most amazing graphical section of this was the manual they managed to put together.
Someone will have to send me a screenshot of this manual.
Or you just push start on the controller. Right. I can't believe you never had to pause the game. But anyway, I agree. It's a charming little game. I thought it was amazing.
Wait, can I defend myself there? I don't hit pause anymore. I just hit the guide button. Keep going.
Well, maybe we need to remap the pause button to the guide button, then you can bring the manual.
Bingo.
Yeah, completely separate to the last two games we spoke about in terms of the graphical style and in a completely different direction, but nonetheless striking in and of itself. It's almost a harken back to the Zelda games from the SNES era, but with with an updated style, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic in terms of the way it was put together, and even some sort of the elements that with your attacks and some of the stuff that went with it. I thought was fantastic as well. Probably, I guess, without sort of jumping the gun, probably not quite up to the par, but not without some of the other games, but not without its charm nonetheless.
And fantastic looking biomes, weren't they, Bully? Really just differentiated themselves with their look.
What's a biome?
All right, Hunky, what was game 5, mate?
All right, a game that also has rather different biomes throughout it. 16th of August 22, we had Rollerdrome. They had snow biomes, I believe, and they had roller skate biomes, which is
desert biomes.
They had desert biomes. It was great. That Rollerdrome is another one of those ones that had shared that cell shading, and it was just done so well. It's got more of the harsh black lines more so than something like Sifu, but again, such a striking art style for a game like that. That I think if the game didn't have that art style, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah, real comic book look. That way, to your point, mate, the hard black edges that really makes everything stand out and pop out from each other. So even way off in the distance, when you can see an enemy that you want to get the long range shot on, the black silhouette really helps to make them pop and stand out. And to your other point earlier, this game will stand up forever. Like, this game won't age visually because they've used such a distinctive art style. And also, you need that full 60 frames a second, or in your case, Hunky, the beautiful 120 frames a second. Oh my God, the gameplay kicks it up a notch. I would kill for 120 hertz monitor to get that Rollerdrome experience. But it's that you need that need the 60 frames a second, silky smooth that Rollerdrome nailed to make the gameplay sing. You can't skip a frame, and this game doesn't. And it's because of the art style. It looked phenomenal and played phenomenal as a direct result of that simplified yet distinctive and perfectly suited art style. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, I half tuned out when you started talking about biomes again. As I said before, I haven't played it, but I have seen gameplay footage of it. It does have that, as you said, Troy, that sort of striking art style that makes it really stand out from anything else we've seen this year. That as soon as you see any of the gameplay footage, you immediately know what you're looking at and the game that you're playing or the game that you're looking at. So I can't really speak to how it impacts or influences or whatever through the gameplay, but certainly, from an art style, it does look very striking and very different.
That it does. I think that brings us to game 6, Unky. Now, has anyone actually played this one? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I finished it today, Troy. So
Hashtag real gamer.
Hashtag real gamer, mate. Someone had to do it. This game, my God, from the moment you turn this thing on, it is clear that Sony Santa Monica are on another level when it comes to graphical fidelity and just what they can actually pump out of this PlayStation 5. So if we're looking at best looking games, just throw out anything else. This is the best looking game, or one of the best looking games I've ever played.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but that boat animation kind of looked like a PS4 game to me.
Oh, did it? It's just so much higher texture now and fidelity.
Bully, your thoughts? I see you're nodding.
I take on board what Unky's saying, and I still sit here infinitely disappointed the fact that it isn't a pure PS5 game, because the fact I get that they're different systems and they've had improvements from or there is differences and improvements between the two versions, but the fact that we haven't got a pure only PS5 version, it still grates me. I'll be brutally honest with you, and I think as good as the graphical style and the world they've built and everything they've put together is amazing. I still sit here and rue the fact that what could have been. And
Mate, we're not here to talk about what could have been. We're talking about what games look like, and this is still better looking than every other game on the market right now. So regardless of whether it's PS5 or not, you've had PS5 games come out specifically for this console. This game still looks better than those. Regardless.
I agree this game looks great, Unky, but I would challenge you to tell me how this game looks markedly better than its 2018 counterpart.
Oh, you'd have to see them playing side by side, but and I'm not one guy from Digital Foundry, but I can tell you right now that the textures they're pumping out in this game are way going to surpass the one in 2018. I guarantee the fidelity and stuff in the characters and stuff is way surpassing 2018. Obviously, to sort of look at a screenshot here and there, you're going to go, no, there's not much difference. But especially towards the end of this game, some of the stuff that this thing does on screen at any given time, and to not drop one frame, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game that 2018 doesn't even go near, and this game doesn't drop a beat. So you wait till you've played more than what you've played, and we can have the same conversation. But after seeing what I've seen towards the end of this game and some of the particles this thing's throwing up, and it not seriously skipping a single frame, it is incredible what this game does and how it looks.
I agree, mate. It is. It's breathtaking. It's brought me to tears multiple times, and there's no way to pull that off if it didn't look and run as well as it does, mate. I'm not really trying to take anything away from it. Sorry, Billy. Any final thoughts on God of War Ragnarok?
No, Bully hates God of War. You can stop talking.
I don't hate God of War. I just don't think it's as good as what it should have been. But anyway, that's a side issue. Having said that, I don't think it's not. I'm not sitting here crapping on it thinking it's a terrible looking game. It's an amazing looking game, don't get me wrong.
Which was your favorite biome?
About to get, I'll tell you what, we have another biome drop. We're going to get away from the PG rating. It's an amazing looking game, don't get me wrong. There's just that thing that sits in the back of my head just thinking how different it could have been. But I guess that's something I need to move on, because it's probably, and I don't disagree with you, Unky, it's probably holding me back from actually really enjoying the game, is having that gnawing thing in the back of my head. But in terms of what they put together, and from what I've seen in the 15 odd hours that I've played it actually looks really good. And what they put together is a fantastic level design, world design. The characters look amazing, and that's probably one thing I will say for it. That and you mentioned, Troy, the difference between the 18 version and this version is, I think the way Kratos is and the presence he has and the way they've designed him on the screen, I think looks absolutely amazing in this version.
You don't think he was on screen too long? Maybe you should have wrapped it up a bit quicker.
Well, that's an argument for a different time. But I actually feel like when he's on screen and you're playing as him, you can almost feel the strength just through the graphical styling that it's got. is that he's this big bulking character that takes up a fair chunk of the screen, and you can feel the hits and you can feel all the action that he goes through. So that's, like, for me, you get a little bit of that in the 2018 version, but the Ragnarok, I think that just takes it to another level. The way they've designed Kratos specifically, I won't speak to his putrid little son, but Kratos himself, I think, is an amazingly well designed and amazing looking character, and he feels fantastic to play as.
And it's not even just him, like all the different armor and stuff they've created to put on him as well. I just think is so well designed and stuff. The arts and crafts team or whatever who do that, the design all the outfits for these characters are just on another level. Like they just look so good. And every time you upgrade them, they've got different looks again, just to sort of show how much effort you've put into upgrading them and stuff as well. I just think it's the amount of attention to detail in God of War Ragnarok is just insane.
I
think we need to move on, Troy, because we might pinch another couple of nerves.
1 second though, if I can, Billy, I just want to shout out, man. You mentioned it a couple of episodes back. I can't remember specifically which one, but about when we were talking about Batman and the feel of Batman and the fact that they could communicate his bulkiness and his presence. And I hadn't considered it until just then when you were talking, mate. But you're completely right. They have given Kratos such an on-screen presence specifically through the way he looks and moves in the game, mate. It's a great point you raise. Like his physical bulk and the way they've animated him, it's fantastic. A big shout out to the look of the character model in that. But moving on, game 7?
7, Callisto Protocol, late one to the party, but what a great looking game. I know Bully hates biomes. This is a good one because it's essentially just one the whole time, which is nice. But the way they play with the light and mood and stuff in this game is just absolutely incredible. It's dark, it's broody. You can almost feel the wetness as you're walking through the hallways. And when you hit the snow, it's really like it covers almost the whole screen. It feels really I'm trying to think of the word, but it just gives you this sense of dread the whole time you're walking through it. It just creates this mood, and it's because of the way the game looks and feels through this game. It creates that unease while you're playing it, and I just think it's so well lit. Like the lighting in this game, the fog, the way the ambient inclusion comes in, and just sort of creates a scene. It's just so well done, and it's easily one of the best looking games I think this year. And I think it had issues running on PC initially, but I think they've fixed that now, and I think it's quite graphically intensive on PC, so it's having that issue. But we've had no real issues on the PS5, and it's been running so flawlessly. And it's just some of the lighting and color they bring into these dark moments as well just brings some kind of levity to sort of those dark moments, where there's just a fire glistening over here or it's a light flickering over here. Like it's really well done.
Let me lob this to you, Bully. Best looking game on the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 is the best looking, when they really tune it, best looking output of the modern consoles. I think this game's look, insofar as uniqueness, insofar as expressing fear and dread and conveying emotion, and for me, triggering legitimate physical responses to what they're showing on screen, hands down wins, in my opinion. I haven't seen anything on the PlayStation 5 look as good, as crisp, as unique, and convey emotion, specifically fear, as well as the Callisto Protocol. I think it's the high watermark, Bully.
Oh, and to your point, like I know it's an independent of Sony developer, but they put a lot of time, resources, and money into assisting with it, which quite clearly shows that it is the platform to play it on the PS5. The PC version has had horrendous issues with it, but quite clearly, if Sony's throwing their resources behind it with their knowledge of their systems and all the rest of it behind it, quite clearly it's going to be a better product on the PS5. But in terms of the lighting, I was playing it just before we came on, and I got to a section where there's a flashing light, and that is the only light that you have in the area. So when the light flashes, you can see what's ahead of you. When it goes off, you're in total darkness, and then it flashes back, but it's a red light, so you're absolutely amazing. So you can see, when the light flashes on, and you can see one of these creatures, sort of stumbling towards you, and then the light goes off, and then you've got exactly what you said, that sense of dread for a half second or a second until the light comes back on, and then he's 3 feet closer to you, and then it goes off again, and then all of a sudden he's right on top of you. The way they've done the graphical style in this. When you talk about Unky was talking about the snow before. I played through a section yesterday where there was you're traipsing through mud, and the mud, like you look down at the mud, it looks like real sloppy, dirty mud, and it affects the way that you walk through the scenery and the sand that goes with it, the sloppiness that you would have when walking through the mud. It's fairly simple in its design because a lot of it's inside corridors and inside futuristic buildings and that sort of stuff. Yes, there is some areas outside of that, but that's for the most part what it is. And the fact that they can use that simple design of walking down a corridor with flashing lights or an odd light down the end of the corridor that just sort of sways and conveys exactly what you said, the dread. I think that the graphical effort that they put into this using the PS or the Sony resources has come up trumps. I can't speak highly enough for the graphical fidelity of this particular game and the effects that go with those graphics as well.
Yeah, if I can just offer this up, we had 3 other contenders in this category that we all had high praise for visually, all open world games, and we were very much speaking to the breadth of the variety that the art department were offering, and it was impressive. But I got to say, the Callisto Protocol shows what happens when a team focuses just on one area, one style, and they throw everything at it. And I got to say, for my money, the Callisto Protocol wins this just because they were laser focused on dread and dark, dank prison, and they smashed it out of the park. For my money, best looking game, Callisto Protocol. Unky, your thoughts?
I might buck the trend. As much as I love how good the Callisto Protocol looks, it's obviously come out towards the end of the year as well. But for the same reasons that we spoke of Callisto being a more focused thing as opposed to these open world things, my money's on Sifu in terms of what it did with its art style and the way it created those different levels and such unique levels throughout that game that they're all so memorable with what they do each time and how often you got to play through them as opposed to just one way through. And you are playing through those levels more than one time as opposed to Callisto where you're essentially just walking through it once. And having those levels be so unique and so awesome to play through multiple times, my vote's Sifu.
Valid criticism and valid points. Bully, split us, mate.
I don't think I'm going to split you. I'm going to give you another option.
Oh, no.
Horizon for me, and I know it's got its criticisms with the gameplay and some of the story, and I don't think particularly founded, but the world that they put together and the way, the breadth of variety in the areas that they have, and just as I said, this the minute detail of the robots that you're fighting against, and then you go into a jungle or you go into a snow-capped mountain, or then you finally find your way to the sea. The whole collection together. Once you put that together, I just can't go past the actual world that they built. And if you take that in and of itself in isolation, and disregard whatever criticisms you got for the rest of the game, I don't think that there's any way, in any way, shape or form, in my opinion, that you can criticize the world or the graphics that they built and put that all together.
Can I pitch it this way? If you took a still of these games, let's say you used photo mode, say, which game of the 3 we've just narrowed it down to, in one image, like one still image, bang, conveys itself better of the 3? Unky?
To be honest, I still would stick with Sifu in terms of what I could do with that game in terms of what it throws up for photo modes and stuff.
Bully?
Oh, I'm going to make it hard for you because I'm going to say the same thing. You could take any particular point in that world and, you do your photo mode, you take that photo mode and you put it up on a wall, and people will be walking past going, "Oh, that's amazing. Where was that? Where have you been? That's fantastic." That's what I would get out of it, is that someone would look at we use the term photo mode loosely because let's be honest, where is it seen outside of a couple of screenshots that you might?
I'll say this: I reckon if you put a photo, you could put a screenshot up from Horizon or Callisto, and you probably know that's a screenshot from a video game. I think you could put a screenshot up of something like a Sifu, and you could probably go, "Is that from an anime? Is that from a cartoon? Is it from a comic?" you could argue that it could potentially look like a whole bunch of different style of art as opposed to just being from a video game. That would be my argument.
That's a strong argument.
Well, clearly we're not going to get split, Troy. So
wait, hold on. Let me just throw this one out there. Hold on. I would just argue that if you had any still of Callisto up on a wall, in your house, every time a new person walked into your house, you'd have to clean the defecate off the floor under the pit. But no, I got to say, Unky, you've swung me to Sifu with that statement. I think you're right, man. It separates itself from the rest of the pack just by it could be any media, but it is a compelling image, and I would want to know more. So my chips land on Sifu. A winner is you. Game number 1. Look at that, Sifu. A winner is you. Thumbs up. Judgment Day 2022. Best looking game to Sifu. All right, then.
Oh, I didn't talk enough about biomes. Damn it.
Hey, there's no biomes in Sifu. There you go.
All right, Unky. It's time. Game of the year.
It's the big one. Game of the year. The first game on the list, 28th of January. It seems like a long time ago now. Pokemon Arceus. Now, I didn't put this on the list. I'm not sure who did.
I can tell you it wasn't me.
There you go. So this one looks like it's a bully one. I mean, now it comes towards the end of the year. I'm glad that Pokemon Arceus came out because it paved the way for our newest, very buggy Pokemons, which, for me, are a more fun game. But, Bully, can you speak to Arceus?
Oh, I thought it was an amazing departure from what we normally had in a Pokemon series, and I've loved Pokemon games for a long time. But the fact that I think the best way to describe it for someone that has never played this style of Pokemon, and it is in and of itself something completely different from the norm. Is it's almost like if you took Breath of the Wild and said, let's throw some Pokemon in it, does it look, admittedly, it doesn't have that open world, there's sections of open world, but it doesn't have that complete open world of, if you stand on a mountaintop here, you can see to the other side of the world. I get all that. But the fact that they've created this open world, that you can go around and hunt the Pokemon, that there's different things occurring, you've got quests that go, like proper quests that go with it, and all that sort of stuff. And as much as I love the two new ones in Violet and Scarlet, I actually still miss some of the gameplay elements they had in this one. I like the fact that you could sneak around the world and go, oh, I've already caught enough of those Pokemon. I'm gonna of that particular variant. I'm gonna sneak around this side and then go and try and get this one over here, or I can see over the other way over there's something that I don't have, and I'm going to sneak around and try and catch that. And just the gameplay elements that utilized, or that you had to utilize to sort of work through that, I thought was a fantastic departure from the norm. And as I said, I miss some of the elements from it in the new ones. And you talk about how buggy the two new ones are. I didn't have any bugs in this at all. There was no issues with pop-in clipping, frame rate drops, any of that sort of stuff.
Can I just point out, though, Bully, that you did get it 3 weeks after release because of Amazon?
Yeah, it'd probably been patched to the bejesus by then. But anyway, well, that's something to be said for Amazon. They're actually trying to look after me because by the time I get it, all the bugs are patched out, and I don't have a terrible experience. I thought it was a fantastic game and a fantastic variation on the Pokemon franchise. If you haven't played it and you have any passing interest in Pokemon, I'd highly suggest you go and pick it up. It's probably forgotten about now. It came out almost 12 months ago, let's be honest, and I think most people have probably moved on from it. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic game.
Great points, Bully. I'll send you into the YouTube chats just to make sure we're on point there. And Unky, have you got any points on Pokemon Legends Icarus, whatever the correct title is?
Arceus. No, I did pick it up and had some fun with it. But it was good to be able to sort of walk around and catch Pokemon just by throwing a Pokeball at it. But that's sort of where my stocks lied in that game. I didn't play it for too much longer after that. But really enjoyed my time with the new Pokemon games.
Perfect. Bully, any comments in the chat there, or should we move on?
No, keep going.
There was one about biomes, I think.
That's where I was trying to send him.
Game
No
number
sale.
Game number 2, Troy. It just won our.
Sifu.
It just won our best looking game, Seafood number 2. What a great game. What a great mechanic, the aging mechanic, which we haven't really seen in games where what a sort of different take on the Soulsborne style difficulty in games where if you die, you actually sort of age up and you've got to try and finish these levels at a younger age to get yourself through to the end of the game. And I found myself lapping this stuff up, and I was there for the challenge. I just wanted to finish this game before the patches came in that gave you an easy mode, because for me, part of the fun of this game was how difficult it was, and was sort of looking at YouTubers and looking at strategies and how to defeat these bosses and how to get to sort of through these levels at a young age. And it was just the way the game looked as well. Like getting through these different levels, that was the bonus. Beating a boss and then just finding out what the next level was going to be and how unique it was going to be. It was just part of the game. And just once you sort of figured out how the game mechanics worked and figuring out a strategy of how to beat a boss, it was just more than going back through the game and then trying to do it at a better age. And it was just so addictive. And I just had so much fun with that game loop. Non-stop, and it was just one of those little indie hits that just came out of nowhere that I love the way it looked. I didn't expect to love the way it played so much.
Shout out to the DualSense controller on this one, because I got to say, it brought the realism to life. Every time I died, I honestly felt like my hands aged about 5 years. The old arthritis really fired up with this one. But to your point, mate, great mechanic with the aging up. I love the way the character got older. It looked fantastic. I love the meta game of it, whereby, you're unlocking the skills that,
Yes.
what do you have to do? 5 unlocks or something of the one skill, and then it's perma unlock. That was a thing of beauty. I absolutely love the way that was implemented. The art style was fantastic. The way every boss encounter looked different and had its own gameplay mechanics was absolutely fantastic. Such a breath of fresh air. Now, I'm stretched in the memory bank here, and I'm hoping Bully's going to be able to help me out, but it was a small team, wasn't it? I want to go out on a limb and say it was 25 to 30 developers. Bully, any chance you can help me out on that one, mate?
I can have a look up for you while we're talking about it, but you guys are probably better placed to talk about it than I am. I think I only put a couple of hours into it. It wasn't. I can appreciate it for what it was, but it certainly is. It's not really my cup of tea in terms of gameplay or game style. And I think I've mentioned and I certainly did Dunky before the show, and I may have mentioned it in previous shows. I think I've gotten to a point really where, when you talk about gaming difficulty, I don't have the time, the effort, or the energy to be going up against, incredibly difficult games like this, and then putting in, the time to get good at it. And
So that's a no for Death March then.
Probably. Well, I'm almost talking myself out of it at this point. But I've played, quite a few games recently, and God of War is one of them. Callisto Protocol is another one of them, where I've dropped the difficulty down just because I don't want to have to go through these frustrating areas. I just want to be able to enjoy the game. Yes, have a little bit of a challenge, but at the end of the day, just enjoy the game for what it is. And I know Sifu came out with a patch later on that dropped the difficulty down, but I think Unky's mentioned in the past numerous times that sort of defeats the purpose of what it is. That if you're going to drop it down to that level, you may as well not even play it, because that's not what it is. And
I wholeheartedly disagree with that statement.
And it's not what the game's designed to be. Well, and you may well, but I certainly haven't gone back to it since they put that patch in. I put the couple of hours into it. It was overly difficult and would have required me to put in a lot of time and effort to learn, the moves and the skill sets and all that sort of stuff. And that's not to say that, on first view, I thought it looked amazing and I was really interested in it. It was just the fact that it would have taken too much time and effort and energy to sort of get, get good, as they say. Well, hashtag real gamer.
Great points.
I've got to actually enjoy it properly.
Yeah, no, fair call, man. I loved it. I loved dropping it to easy and then being able to go through and experience those different boss mechanics. I have a lot of respect for the developers for putting that easy mode in there and allowing me to experience the whole thing. To your point, Unky, I completely understand. If you did get good at it at the original difficulty, yes, there would have been a much greater sense of accomplishment seeing the end of it. But it was a visual treat, to the best looking awards point. to go through to see all the bosses and the different art styles. It was fantastic. Any final points from you before we move on, Unky?
Nah, not at all. Great game.
All right, then it's Horizon 2's turn.
Horizon 2, Game of the Year, number 3. We've already spoke. I think Bully spoke pretty well about this game already. But, it was one of those ones that, for me, I was loving my time with it. I think it did like 25 hours in the first 2 days I had the game or something like that, and was absolutely in love with it. But then it got its lunch eaten again by Elden Ring, unfortunately, just like the first game got its lunch eaten to me by Breath of the Wild. But And again, I still haven't finished Horizon, so I know it's a great game. It's one of those ones that I will go back to and finish at some point. Great open world game for me. It's definitely not my favorite on this list, but I know Bully and yourself did platinum it.
Oh, yes. Got the platinum in this one. I enjoyed it. Once again, though, I'll just reiterate, I ended up playing this game with the sound off and skipping every cutscene. It was a podcast game in the end for me. Minute-to-minute gameplay, very enjoyable. Awkward controls of the mount aside, very enjoyable game. I love the art style of the big bosses. I love picking off the various components. Gameplay to the max, absolutely enjoyable. Bully, your thoughts?
Just before I jump into that, Slow Clap, who developed Sifu's got 56 employees.
56.
Yeah, I absolutely love my time with Horizon. And I don't disagree with a little bit of what you said there, Troy, is that, sort of towards the end of the game, and I think it took me about 45, 50 hours to get through to the platinum.
65 on my side. Too much whinging.
Well, I think by the time I'd sort of hit 35, 40 hours, I'd almost sort of, oh, come on, hurry up. Can we just finish this? And then it got to the point where, do I really want to do it? Oh, I'm only another couple of hours away. I might as well just do it.
Yep.
So for 35, 40 hours, absolutely enjoyed it and enjoyed everything that it had to offer. The combat,
bring that mic closer, mate.
The dinosaurs, everything that they had. And I previously touched on it. The world is amazing, but it just sort of, it's one of those games that I think probably dragged on 5 or 10 hours too long to get the platinum. If you were just playing it purely for the story and weren't doing the side stuff, and it probably would have gone 25, 30 hours, I reckon that would have been the perfect sort of time. And if you had to put it down after that, you would have been pretty satisfied finishing the story and just moving away from it after that point. But the extra, 10, 15, 20 hours that it took you to get the plat wore a bit of the polish off in terms of the actual gameplay by the end of it. But having said all that, it's an absolutely amazing game, and I feel really bad for it because exactly what Unky said. It came out just before Breath of the Wild released, and then it came out a couple of weeks before Elden Ring, which was one of the most anticipated games of the year. So I think someone in their marketing department needs to be sacked or have a decent slap across the head because, the game. I get that a game's ready when it's ready, but have a look at what's coming out around it and make a judgment call. That you could have pushed it back, 6 or 8 weeks, and it would have had a bit of fresh air to have its own time.
Yep.
And I think that would have done it a lot better than where we sort of see it. And I know Sony's fairly invested in the series. There's a VR version coming out. They've got the DLC coming out. We're talking about, follow-up games. So it's not going anywhere. But I just think it really needs to have its own time to breathe and for people to actually enjoy it because it's a fantastic game. But it just continually gets overshadowed.
It does. Now, Unky, what overshadowed it, though?
Mate, that would be exactly 7 days later on 25th of February was Elden Ring. And what a game this was. This, I think, Troy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I reckon we spoke about this for like 5 weeks straight on our interrogation and deliberation.
It may have been 8 weeks.
It just didn't stop because we just kept playing it. It's one of those games that just trusts its player to have fun in its world. It doesn't give you quest markers. It doesn't tell you where to go. It just trusts that the player is going to play the game on its own merits and have your own fun with it. And the amount of stories that came out of that, the amount of times you're just playing the game with someone else and experiencing and exploring and finding things on your own without a map marker or without someone telling you to go here is just absolute phenomenal game design.
The ability for me to throw up the bat signal and get you in to kick old mate in the teeth, the first boss whose name I'm blanking on, but brilliant gameplay design.
Just so good. And the fact that it just strips everything back. And I think that's what Horizon for me so much lacked it, because it had all that extra stuff in it, whereas just you come back in and play something pared back like Elden Ring that doesn't hold your hand, but at the same token, you know where you need to go, but you don't need to go there. But then there's that sense of exploration, and they always have that just one more thing you want to look at. It kind of had that Breath of the Wild about it, where you look somewhere, you can go there, and you're almost always going to find something, unique and fun to do or play with the mechanics of the game, with your character, whether it's unlocking new abilities, unlocking new weapons, finding new enemies, finding new bosses. Like, it's just insane the amount of stuff this game's got in it, that it just doesn't throw it down your throat. You have to go actually out and explore and find it. And it's not since playing something like The Witcher, where even with that, with all its map quests and stuff and markers on it, it's not since The Witcher that I've had this much fun exploring a game, or even Breath of the Wild, having this much fun just exploring a world and that sense of wonder that you get from just moving through a world.
And shout out to the deep demonic world. It's chaos. There's dragons, literal fire falling from the sky, and not one whinger present. It was a thing of beauty. Bully, your thoughts?
I agree with everything you said, Unky. For the moment that you get dropped into it and you do the tutorial, for those that did the tutorial.
Was there a tutorial?
It's absolutely amazing. Like, I think we're all fans of what the Soulsborne guys have put together in terms of the what they've done in the past and the worlds they've created, what they've done in terms of then transferring that into an open world, but still retaining all those fantastic parts of what they're renowned for and what their world building had previously been. And then what Unky said there is just to literally dump you in the middle of post-tutorial world, and then you can go wherever you want, you can do whatever you want. You're only limited by essentially your skill set. If you want to go and tackle the hardest enemy in the game, you can go and tackle the hardest enemy in the game. But most players will then go away and try to level themselves up and work themselves and get some equipment and items and stuff to help them sort of progress. But there is people that have just gone away and bypassed a lot of it, because you don't actually need to play large sections of it. So that's probably the first thing. And I'd almost counteract to what you said, Troy, is in terms of having someone jump in and help you out. There was a couple of times that Unky came in and he helped me get through sections that he'd previously done, so it wasn't new to him, but it was new to me. And I almost felt that in some sections detracted from the overall experience, because you'd sort of work your way up to a certain point. You might beat a boss, and then we'd sort of say, oh, we've got another 20 minutes. Hey, I'll help you get through this bit, or we'll work our way up to this bit, and then you'll go. But sort of rushing through that with someone who was probably a little bit more overpowered or had a little bit more skill or whatever it was, pushes you through an area that you would have normally taken a bit longer with, and then probably taken a bit more of what was on to offer in while you were playing it, if you were doing it by yourself and going at your own pace. So I sometimes found that as a little bit of a detriment, but that's not to say that there were certainly parts that I got to that I just couldn't beat some of the enemies. And it didn't matter how much I tried or how much effort I put in, that I actually needed someone to come in and give me a chop out with it. So there's pros and cons from both of it, but the game itself, in terms of what it's put together, absolutely stunning. Is probably the only word I've got for it is stunning as to what they put together, and it's brutally difficult. And if that's your thing, well, good luck to you. And that's probably the one thing that after probably putting 40 or 50 hours into it probably started to wane with me. It just became too difficult, too time consuming, and too frustrating. Again, and it goes back to that thing. I just don't have the time to invest in something that is going to take me a lot of time to get the skill set up to where I need to be actually be able to play it.
Yep.
And quite rightly, there's no difficulty level in this. You can't drop it down. It is what it is. You either play it the way they've designed it, or you don't play it, or you can play it and you're terrible at it. And
get your teeth kicked in.
And you get your teeth kicked in, or you get good. So I think, for what it is, it's an absolutely amazing game. I've got nothing negative to say about it. Even with that difficulty level, I still had an absolutely amazing time with it. I wish I had the skill level to keep going and get to where, you did, Troy, with getting the platinum. And out of the three of us, Troy, I think there's only one of us that does.
Let's not forget, I finished this game 3 weeks before Troy did, all right?
Wait a minute, just check the screen for me, Unky.
But did you really? Because there's only one hashtag real gamer.
Look at it! The platinum is mine!
Set up.
And we can't finish singing Elden Ring's praises until we say shout out to the best mount ever in a game that magically appears under your legs and you're just off and running. No need to push triangle and slowly mantle up before you gallop. No. Hit the button and go. I bloody love it. All right, game 5. We're going to wrap this up, boys, or Zencast is going to fall apart on us.
Let's move quick. We've got Ghostwire Tokyo, 25th of March, 2022. This is one of those ones, not anyone else's game of the year list, but it took a spot in our hearts. We loved it. Troy platinumed it as far as I remember.
Yes, indeed. Cried at the end. Emotional resonance at the end of this one. Brilliant game.
It was such a cool little game where, didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Didn't expect to even finish it, but loved in my whole playthrough with it once we fixed up those controls. What a great little game by that studio. And it was definitely a departure from the Evil Within that they were known for. But great first person, play as Doctor Strange in a ghostly world.
Indeed. Bully, any thoughts?
Only for those that haven't played it. It will take you an hour or two to get into it. Once you do, persist through that time period, because what comes out of that is an absolutely amazing game. And as you said, quite emotional and quite different for anything else that you're really going to play.
Yeah, really stands out on its own. It's a great take on it. Game number 6, Unky?
Game number 6, we spoke about it earlier with Best Sound. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge took us.
Oh, I think we've lost Unky.
Back to the arcades and didn't we bloody love it? I think it has. I'm still here. You got me?
I got you back now, man. Yes, Turtles, we love you. We sung your praises earlier. I absolutely love the Days of Arcadia. Works with the arcade stick. Bully, your thoughts?
Amazing game, amazing soundtrack. Loved it. Multiplayer is fantastic.
Beautiful. Game 7?
Plague Tale Requiem. Bully loved this one. Loved the music. It was a great game too. A very good first game.
Arguably best stealth game of the year, Bully?
Amazing soundtrack, amazing story. If you're going to cry at the end of a game, you'll cry at the end of this one. Believe me, it. As you said, amazing first game, absolutely brilliant follow-up to it. Can't speak highly enough of this one.
Love it. Game 8?
Gotham Knights. We didn't think this would be on our list, but it definitely is, because this game was awesome and it was way better than what the critics said.
All the critics got this one way wrong. Phenomenal game, great story. Mission 5, shout out to the hard left turn. Brilliant Mission 5. Bully, your thoughts?
Maybe Warner Brothers needs to pay GameSpot and IGN some more money to get some better reviews. Is
there gambling going on in that casino?
Absolute trash bag reviewers is all I can say.
If you want to see our thoughts on this game, just watch like the last sort of 3-4 episodes where we talk about it nonstop and just sing its praises, because it's such a great game in that Gotham series. Definite departure from the Batman games, but what they do really well.
Indeed, they do. And final one, the icing on the cake, maybe?
The icing on the cake, God of War Ragnarok, November 9. My God, I just rolled credits on this game, and holy shit, I have not cried in a game more so than this game has drawn tears, because there is some moments in this game that rival, if not are some of the best moments in video games that I've ever had. I know Troy, you've already had a few of them. Let me tell you, there's a lot more coming because this game, holy shit. We've talked about how good Elden Ring was in terms of its world building and stuff like that. In terms of its emotional resonance, there's no other game that has beaten it this year than God of War Ragnarok. This game tells an absolute gripping story, the best story of the year in terms of video games. If we were voting on best story, this game would have it hands down because it is God tier. No pun intended, but this game was absolutely phenomenal from the start to the finish. And now that I've finished it, I literally cannot wait to go do all the side quests and stuff with the way they've set it up.
Speaking of hands down, my old man hands cannot handle this game. I need some sort of patch and some sort of medical assistance to see the end of it, I think. Boys, where are we landing? Who wants to go first? Who wants to name their game of the year?
Well, I almost can't go past, like, as much as I've just come off God of War Ragnarok and I'm singing its praise and I'm so high at the moment, I can't tell you how high I am on that game. Elden Ring, the time it came out, for how long for how long we spoke about this game.
Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. You want that one?
That's the one. For how long we spoke about this game, for how long the game was relevant in the gaming community, for how much fun we had playing this game, for how much this game just sung our praises for weeks on end. And to the end of this year, you're still thinking about a game that came out in February. This game came out 25th of February, and everyone's still talking about it. So there's a reason for that. Miyazaki, you're a genius.
Some of us have started our second playthrough on another platform. Bully, I am seconding Unky. Game of the year for me is Elden Ring. Your thoughts?
I think you got the wrong screen up there, Troy. But look, I'll be brutally honest. Mine's a toss up between this and Plague Tale, but clearly outvoted, so we'll go with Elden Ring. As I said, I didn't see it through just because of the difficulty level, but that's not taking away from what it had to offer. It was an absolutely amazing game.
Fantastic. I love it. Elden Ring, a winner is you for Game of the Year, Judgment Day, Geek Aloud. Gaming Enforcement Agency's Game of the Year 2022 is, of course, Elden Ring. Now, Bully, we're going to have to hightail it, my friend, because Zencaster is seriously about to fall apart on us. Can you quickly give us, from an audience interrogation standpoint, what were the polls? Where did the votes land?
Yep, so we had the indie game was Vampire Survivor. The audience vote for the soundtrack was Shredder's Revenge.
Wait. Shredder's Revenge was 3. Yep.
The audience vote for the best looking game was God of War Ragnarok. And the audience vote for Game of the Year was God of War.
Hey, well deserved.
Ragnarok.
I suggest a bit of recency bias now. I'm sorry, everyone. We kind of had to rush the ending because this segment went, not this segment, this whole show. We're too excited about games. But, Bully, any other notable chats that we need to bring in from their YouTube chat? And thank you, everyone at home, for participating throughout the show. I really appreciate it. Good work.
Well, I've blocked out most of it because the last part of the conversation was about something that I dare not mention or refuse to mention. No, refuse. I will say to Gaming Raptor, he's been feeling a bit under the weather, much like our friend Unky there. Hopefully you get well soon. What do we do? Actually, he mentioned he was a bit dirty about Sonic Frontiers. He thought that had the best soundtrack. For the year. We also had Matt47 who was giving us a few movie tidbits.
Excellent. I love the movie tidbits, Matt. Good work.
I'll throw this one at you. The very first movie Alan Rickman ever did was 1988's Die Hard. He certainly hit the ground running. Boom, boom. There's a few bit more in the chat, but as you said, we're a bit stretched for time, so we might squeeze it out there.
We will have to wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the YouTube chat polls throughout the week. I appreciate it, but we are off duty. Boys, thank you very much for joining us this week. Bully, will we see any more live Let's Plays from you?
Oh, we'll see how we go. I've got a bit of work this week, but I have 3 weeks coming up, so I think you might get flooded there, Troy. So be careful what you wish for.
I wish for many Let's Plays, particularly a Death March. I want like a 21-part epic from you from Death March, one a day of that playthrough. Unky Dunky, thank you for coming back, my friend. It was a pleasure to have you on air again.
No, that's all right. I'm going to go away and beat some of these final bosses.
You're not going for a platinum in Elden Ring, are you?
I might have to do that too, just to shut you guys up.
perfect. Okie dokie. What else can you do with the channel?
Like it, subscribe it, you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck.
Hey, that's not it.
I love everything about it.
Players play.
Old Uncle Donkey.
Donkey.